fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up the
Oh
wall!
my God! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing Trueforce was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modelling.
Trueforce is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. Trueforce force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tyres and the steering wheel. The Trueforce algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second, It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and Trueforce enables us to do that. And the ability to send the audio to the wheel, to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction, really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a Trueforce wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. Trueforce is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. Trueforce benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
Hello everyone, welcome to our coverage of the 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour. It's a big 24 hours coming up for the teams and these drivers all vying to win this once a year prestigious event. And tonight it's all about qualifying with a 3-part format which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a moment. Then up nice and early, ready for the green flag at 9 AM Australian Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow, and of course 12 hours later we take the checkered flag and crown our 2022 champions. And all those major moments coming to you live here on SimSpeed TV. Joining me for our qualifying coverage tonight is David Haynes and myself, of course, Ryan Jones. Jay Kennedy on the cameras and pretty much everything else running the production on this one. David, you're an endurance racing fan. Why aren't we seeing you in the entry list for this one?
That's a great question. One Queenslander to another, daylight savings is just a little bit silly, but it's not something that my teammates are quite going to run. But it's certainly a very interesting format that we're going to have for qualifying, and it's a great track to watch some qualifying because there are some circuits out there where the racing is great, but watching some hot lapping wouldn't entertain. This isn't one of those circuits. A full commitment, full attack lap around here is an exciting thing to watch, and I'm thrilled to have plenty of cars that we're going to feast our eyes upon doing just that around the famous Mount Panorama today.
So our field is comprised of GT3 cars and GT4 cars, and it's a healthy mix between the two. So it's going to be really interesting to see over the course of 12 hours how those GT4s factor into that overall field. 12 GT4s and 38 GT3s. Let's go through our trouble spots, or trouble spots and key places for qualifying, David. Turn 1, it's easy on paper, but it's easy to get wrong because at the start of the qualifying lap, you've got that pressure of 6.2 kilometers ahead of you, and it's so easy to get wrong. There's so many other places here that you've got to nail in qualifying as well, right?
Exactly. Starts with turn 1, as all good racetracks do, but that desire at the start of a hot lap to break really deep in there can lead you to making a mistake. There is a slight rise at the apex there that can unsettle a car. And then, of course, the exit curb's got AstroTurf and grass and gravel immediately on the far side of it that many a driver has dug up over the years. And then, of course, you mess that up at turn 1, compromising your run uphill, suffering even more pain up towards Griffin's Bend.
And then across the top of the mountain, of course, it's a place where your line is so critical. It's basically one line through there, get it slightly wrong and you're firing into the fence. And the other super key place in qualifying is the exit of Forest Elbow. Get that wrong and you're throwing away your whole lap. There's no recovering or fighting back for the time you lose coming out of there with a poor exit down to when you stomp on the brakes at the chase, because that massive Conrod straight is well, it's flat out, isn't it, David? So a poor exit means you're leaking time all the way down to the next braking zone. And
yeah, and iRacing qualifying rules, any graze of the walls throws your lap away. If that happened in the real world, there'd be many drivers thinking, there'd be many good laps that would have been thrown away by drivers getting up against the wall, brushing a mirror here or there. It happens.
But we have good news, because that three-part format for qualifying I spoke about, well, we've already kicked things off with pre-qualifying over the last couple of days, whittling our field down to 50. There are a few GT3 combinations that have unfortunately missed out, because there was just 1.3 seconds covering those 50 qualified GT3 teams in the end. Tonight they're all fighting for pole position. So first up, the GT4 gang are going to go out. They didn't need to pre-qualify with just 12 of them. They'll have 30 minutes to set their fastest time, and then for 55 minutes we send the GT3s out, all 38 of them, to try and do the best effort they can do, and then we take the top 15 and we send them on a shootout lap. But the good thing here, David, is those incidents you spoke about, they're not going to count in the shootout. So if you scrape a wall, you can get away with it and carry on your lap. If you drop 2 tyres off the outside of Mick Phillamy, carry on, blaze in that lap. It's going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great driver lineup we've got, just like the real 12-hour. It attracts a lot of local, a lot of other talent as well. So we've got, supercars drivers people will be more familiar with. You've got GT3 focused sim racers, and all of them together in one great event. Drivers from maybe different focuses and disciplines typically, all here to kick off the year at Mount Panorama.
Though, talking of our combinations, you have to have 3 drivers in your car across the span of the 12 hours. In qualifying, there's a bit of a dynamic to work out as to whether you go 1 driver or 2 or 3. We'll talk about that over the next hour or so. But in terms of our combinations, there is a serious pool of talent, David. Who's caught your eye?
Well, top of the warm-up session, maybe. Vendaval Sim Racing 36.
Josh Anderson.
Yeah, Josh Anderson.
Burst.
Dylan Burst, yep. So again, a bit of international flavour. Some really strong Australian drivers. Some known for maybe a bit more of their exploits in supercars. Maybe some known better for their exploits in GT3. But of a combined 3-driver lineup, that's a really strong looking one. I've had Josh Anderson in my mirrors once or twice. I've had him a long way down the road from me many times. And this is a track he knows well too.
Well, don't we all? We all know this track so well, don't we?
I've never driven Aussie racing cars around here, but...
No, you're exactly right. Exactly right. And that is going to be slightly beneficial to him, along with a couple of our other drivers here who have done their part to expand our real-world racing scene. Cooper Murray, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Brody Kostecki, they're all out there across 2 different cars to talk about them when they go out there for qualifying. But anyone else? I'm looking at Synergy Sim Racing, Jordan Ross, Matt Brunt, Kobe Jones. Kobe is someone who's been getting quicker and quicker as of late. Last time I saw him was really starting to take it up towards the front end of the field and paired up with Jordan Ross. I think that might be a pretty good combination in car number 143.
Number 43, Logitech G Altus Esports, not just because Logitech G, but also in the Ferrari, some good drivers there as well. Andrew Carl, was he not a New South Wales Formula Ford champion at one point? And of course, the team as a whole are always very well prepared for these iRacing endurance events. Some World Tour victories to their names that some people we know don't stop going on about, but very successful in GT cars and endurance racing, that team.
Indeed they are. So, here we go. Our qualifying session begins, and it's the GT4 cars that go out for 30 minutes first. A couple of important things to note about this qualifying. This isn't the shootout, so if you do scrape the wall, it is going to kill your lap. The other one is red flags are a thing, and the no escape rule is in effect, just like we see across all Oceanic sim racing events. Which means if you have a shunt out there, and you can't continue back to pit lane, you're going to have to sit there and ask race control for a tow. They're probably going to call the red flag, and if you're a lap somewhere else on the racetrack, it's going to be ruined. But this is the interesting one. This combination in the GT4 class, Shane Van Gisbergen, excuse me, Nick Foster, and Brad Newman. Car number 50 in the McLaren. It looks beautiful. Sponsored by Falcon, and it's probably going to be pretty quick. It's probably the car to beat in the GT4 class. Right, David?
Yep. Been looking at some of the others though. Trans-Tasman Racing 77 could bring it to him potentially. Also in a McLaren GT4. Got Madison Down, who's out qualifying that car at the minute. The R8G guest car. God, they have got the AAA. Well, there you go, Vlad Kimichev. I've seen him racing. He was very successful in Sports Car Open last weekend or the weekend before. Quite recently. It's kind of in the 24-hour series. Anyway, he's been racing a bunch of GT3 machines on iRacing. And he's got some interesting teammates there as well. Is it Kimichev in the car right now? Looks like Hydes and Vartanian for his co-drivers. Again, another lineup with some mostly loaded with Australians, but then an international or two in here as well.
Yeah.
The real race, the real 12-hour is pretty global. Sim racing, a big event in sim racing can be pretty damn global as well in terms of the talent pool.
100%, and it's good to have the international flavour that 12-hour brings to the Australian motorsport scene, and good to continue it on iRacing. I'm just looking over our entry list spreadsheet, and I see someone from Russia, I see someone from Brazil, I see someone from the USA, so all corners of the globe for this one, and there's probably a few Kiwis in there as well.
I wish iRacing would separate Club Oz NZ, not because I have no respect for our great friends across the ditch, but it would be nice if every now and again on the timing screen it said whether they're Australian or New Zealand rather than just maybe a little bit of Oz bias given to that club.
I spoke about turn 1 being difficult. See those time marks on the outside of the corner? Michael Schreier has already got a roll for Synergy Sim Racing. Smith & Sons, number 14. So, just like that, his lap's done. He's got 6.2 Ks to cruise now. We can have another attempt. Pretty bold livery too, the chrome green, I think, the SSR number 14. They released those not long ago. But going on board further up the order, further on the track, this is Jinx Shifters 52. Aaron Gilbert at the wheel at the moment. Let's go on board with him across the top of the mountain. David, talk us through it.
Well, a lot of fans beside the track as always, but it's not as simple as it looks like on the map. There's elevation change, all these places, trying to ride the curb, track drops away there, and these GT4 cars can often be a little more boaty than the GT3, a little more pushy, a little harder to make them turn and change directions quickly, particularly this BMW when it's not set up for a qualifying run. It's been all good so far. Just the right amount of respect early in the run for the walls. That this looks like a pretty committed lap, but it's definitely one that you're hoping you're going to complete and finish and be able to add as your banker, and then ramp up the intensity in the later laps. This might be one of the places the BMW's typically strong in class amongst GT4s down the long straights here. Turbocharged inline 6, very broad power and torque curve. Wherever you are in the gears, it seems to pull pretty well. And it does get up into 6th gear on the way down to the chase. Not something you get often with the road ratio gearbox in the M4 GT4.
Using more of the curve there at the chase as well. See what this time is from Gilbert, and there's a twofold reason as well. The one you mentioned, of course, for getting a banker lap in early, but that potential for red flags, you've got to get a lap in early, because if you don't, you just might get caught out and not get a representative time in any time else. Especially with only 30 minutes for these GT4 cars. It takes 2 or 3 minutes for an out lap, or 2 minutes for a hot lap. It was a 2:14 for number 52, 4th fastest at the moment. That is the pace setter, the number 92 Porsche. Maloney, Hampstead, and was that Evans? I didn't quite catch that third name. Emily Jones, sorry. No, that was Jay feeding me a false line. But as we saw earlier, Maloney's at the wheel at the moment, so that's all that matters right now. A 2:12.7 from him, 3/10 clear. And there's that 888 car. I was going to mention, David, do you reckon this combination stole the 888 before Van Gisbergen and co could snap it up? Or is only 50 the usual number for that trio?
Well, they love the number 8 at R8G, that much is obvious. So if 8 and 88 were already taken, I reckon 888 was going to be at risk. And with all respect to the Giz, wouldn't he be more likely to run a 97?
Yeah, I think you could very make a viable argument for either number. You're right about that. Here's Shreya. Remember I said he got his first lap wrong right at turn 1? Well, it looks like he's at least kept it off the grass on his second lap.
Speaking of the Giz, he's just gone purple across 2 sectors up the top of the mountain as well, so he's flying. Trans-Tasman Racing are flying, and that 14 is around.
He's found the grass again. 2 attempts, 2 incidents, which means Shreya will be one of those drivers hoping a red flag does not come out. Here is that purple pace-setting car at the moment. Falcon Racing 50. Flat through the chase, easy in GT3, GT4 machinery, but still sounds amazing. So you've always got to pause and listen as he picks up a bit of the sliding action as he uses the curve at the chase, trying to use all of the racetrack, maximise his entry, maximise his exit, get on the power as soon as he can here, out of Murray's corner, bit of the grass on exit, he should get away with that, and he does, a 2:11.79, half a second up the road from the R8G guest team.
Yeah, it was personal best everywhere of the 6 microsectors and best overall in 3. It's always going to be an improvement for himself, and sets a new benchmark in the 2:11s for qualifying. Dynamic weather in play. The sun is getting higher in the sky, and I think the track might actually be heating up a little bit as we go on with this qualifying session. So there's some different schools of thought there, I think, of how you attack this session with regards to banker laps, with regards to how all out you go early. I think it forces everyone to take a little bit more risk. If the session is going to be stronger earlier on, you can't, wait around for that perfect window later on, because your first 1 or 2 or 3 flying laps might be where the magic's at.
And it is a risk, because normally in qualifying on iRacing, you go out there, you give it your all, you put it in the fence, you escape, go back to pit lane and try again. But in this race, in the Oceanic sim racing, you go out there, you put it in the wall, that's your qualifying done. Even after the tow back to pit lane, you can't go back out there. So it is a risk to go out there and lay it all on the line straight away. And the other point I briefly mentioned earlier is how you approach qualifying in terms of your driver choice, because some teams have 3 drivers, a few teams have 4 drivers, and in some of those very fast combinations, there's multiple. Is it a car on the wall? The Trans-Tasman car just went by. Yes, it was. In the fence at Solomon Park, isn't it? Reed Park?
Better you than me. Drop bear 268 it is. It's that change of direction later on from the cutting there where you want to carry speed through there, get close to the wall on the left hand side. But 268.
And there is the red flag for the car in the wall that we see on your screens. Virtual Racing School going to tell us through the replay how this has happened. Solomon Park. Yep, that's a big hit. That's a classic one though, isn't it? Just getting the rear end out of shape, hard into the fence on the left. Ooh, I think it was a bit of both actually. He's got the wall on the inside. Well, the wall on the inside is what really got him undone. But I think he was sliding just before that, David.
I think they're expecting a bit of understeer, have turned in a little early. It's gripped up and turned more than expected, so the rear has started giving way. That's put them into the inside wall, and then of course you find one wall, you'll find a couple walls around the top of the mountain there. So I'm with you. The car was just a little too far out of control, a little too much on the knife edge before it even clouded the wall there. It's one less Cayman, but I am looking at our Logitech G safety car at pit exit there, and it is looking fresh. I love me a good safety car. I love the iRacing sedan, but we've got Porsche Cayman for a safety car. Looking good.
That colour is not far away from what I use as well, and it is, of course, the branding colour of Logitech G. Now, there's a reason. It's a damn good looking colour when you put it on a race car. So, I believe, based on, I think it was the 1000 last year, that they'll send the safety car out to make sure the track's clear, then let everyone go. We'll see how this one does pan out. Look, behind the safety car, you'll see a number of cars lining up to exit pit lane. Those are the last 2 cars on your screen now that weren't able to get to pit lane. Van Gisbergen was actually right next to the pit entrance when that red flag was called. He made half a move to pit, ultimately decided it wasn't worth the risk of spinning on the grass, and so he's continued around behind that BMW, which is Matty Jones and the Type N Esports 286, which is another fast combination. He's driving with Cooper Murray, Brownlee, and bear with me.
Safety car away, though.
I'm looking at the wrong team.
So it's playing a bit of course car.
It is a Murray though, so don't blame me. All I saw was Murray. It is, yeah, Sebastian Murray Westberg, Matty Jones, and Lockhart Brownlee.
Most importantly, though, who's driving the 00? Nick Parker.
So this is scrubbing time out of the GT4 qualifying session. They get 30 minutes. 12 of those have already elapsed. By the time the safety car's back in pit lane, it'll be halfway through the session. And we've seen 11 times set out of a 12-car GT4 field. Of course, Michael Schreier hasn't set a time. Thank you, Michael, for that brilliant example of why we keep saying it's important to get a time in early. Because we saw him make those 2 mistakes in validating his lap times, and as a result he sits in pit lane halfway through the session under red flag. Currently looking at a P12 start on the back of the grid for the beginning of the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour.
Both of the Race on Oz cars there, 102 and 22, don't look like they've put representative times to the board either, especially the 22. I think they've gone personal best in 3 sectors in the lap they were on when the red flag was called, potentially.
I think you find a lot of people would have been, as those tyres come in, you find your groove. Certainly, well, you said the 22, but I would say the 102 as well. Benjamin Smith at the wheel. You'd expect him to be a bit closer to the pointy end than, what's that, almost 4 seconds? Just over 4 seconds. Certainly expect that GT4 field to close up substantially by the time this session's out. Our safety car is going to bring it into pit lane, and we'll see the rush out of pit exit in just a moment. Aaron Gilbert has himself pole position, just shy of those green cones where you release your pit speed limiter. Incidentally, that pit speed, which will be a big factor tomorrow, 50 k's. There's the green flag, and back underway for GT4 qualifying.
GT4, typically their garage is at the other end of pit lane. There they all go. Tyre temperature so important. Everyone will be on new tyres now for this run. And the outlaps are all about building that temperature. So real tyre warmers for the GT4 cars.
The Trans-Tasman Porsche just trying to pick its way into a little pocket of space, as is Van Gisbergen now, and the McLaren. He'll go between the 2 Trans-Tasman cars. I wonder if that's a purposeful ploy. Put himself between 2 very quick combinations. Maloney in front, Madison down behind. There's some good synergy for SVG and McLaren at Bathurst. Of course, he stood on the podium 4 times in the Bathurst 12-hour in real life as SVG, but he won it in a McLaren back in 2016. That was in the McLaren 650S. This is not quite that same McLaren. A little bit slower.
A friend of mine in Sydney sent me a message like yesterday or something. He saw a 570S being driven with L plates on it. I don't think you're putting L plates on Gizzy's McLaren, but it's like a little interesting. I think in New South Wales, you can drive one on your L plate, but then you wouldn't be able to, at least for the first year or so on your Ps. So that'd make me, gosh, I'd have been on my L plates forever if like my parents had a 570S.
All I know is you can't go above 90Ks, and it's really funny for the people that have to experience that.
That's an interesting one because I believe it actually applies to only New South Wales L platers, not other L and P platers in New South Wales.
Yep.
It's weird.
Experience that. It's
a weird one.
Traveling past fellow P platers.
Again, if I lived in Tweedhead, I'd go across the border to get my Ps.
Yeah, actually, here we go then. Our first laps after the red flag interruption. This is an interesting spot for Reino Costello. You'd expect Van Gisbergen to drive away. That's not going to happen though. Up Mountain Straight. He would have been in a really good spot to follow Van Gisbergen for a lap of Mount Panorama. Now SVG's going to watch out because Madison Down is going on with his hot lap out of turn 1. Down's problem is he's probably going to get held up by Costello here. I don't think Costello will want to yield. He's on a flyer himself.
If I was sitting at the top of qualifying right now, you wouldn't catch me towing anyone else around. You'd see me, being a bit of a granny up towards turn 2 there and letting everyone else go, build out a little bit of time and make them do the work themselves.
This is where it's going to get tricky for Madison Down. It's definitely compromised him now. He's having to just sit in. As I mentioned, it's only one line across the top unless you're feeling very, very brave and it's late on in the day. But in qualifying, it's not worth it. Down finds another pocket of space. There's still 12 minutes left in the session. It'll be interesting to see what sort of time this is from Costello though. I don't think it's going to be particularly quick given the fact that he's currently second. He's backed out of it. He's currently second in the Evolution Racing Team 117. And he was being really hurried along by Madison Down there, so I would suggest it wasn't amazing. That'll annoy Down, won't it, David? Getting held up across the top and then released on Conroy.
Yeah, I was like, where was that half a lap ago?
I will be shocked if this is any way decent of a lap. But we'll keep an eye out just in case. Further up, see what sort of improvements there are from the first car across the line. I have to score the race Norris car, 2:13.4, so immediately improving. 2:13.3 from Benjamin Smith driven race Norris car, so he improves as well. Madison Down does in fact do a PB. 2:12.2. I don't know how much that cost him across the top. You've got the sectors, don't you, Dad?
Purple in sector 1 getting a tow up the hill here. And flat everywhere else. No personal bests, no improvements. Found lacking just a little bit. I don't know exactly where this micro sector 4 is, but Vlad Kimachev went fastest overall there on his way to being the second driver, the second man into the 211s for GT4 qualifying. So I guess one will be up towards Griffin's Bend. Two's probably around here. I think four's going to 6. I think four's probably going to be down Skyline and through the dip up. That's where you'd expect the Cayman to be strong. Mid-engined, it's not setting the speed trap alight. In fact, he's 8 k's an hour down in the speed trap to what Giz has managed.
That's a lot of smoke.
Sure is from someone. Oh, from a couple of people.
A couple of cars off. I think we've had a collision here. That's Maloney with substantial damage. And was it the BMW there that he made contact with? I think I saw a flash of green off of the gravel.
Rake to rejoin.
Yeah, that's a little bit messy there, isn't it? Oh no! Costello gets balked a mile. It is Van Gisbergen with damage to the right rear and the front end. fact, the SSR car does have damage as well. So, here's the replay. Maloney is the first of 3. Smash! Van Gisbergen follows. Just a case of follow the leader, and then he's right on the apex. And I think that Schreier was just the innocent party there with nowhere to go. Although he did look pretty close to the fence in the background. Maybe on board the people told us that he also grabbed the fence. I reckon he missed it, but right here there was nothing he could do, and he's grabbed the tyre bundle on the outside of McPhillamy Park. Oof! It's tight qualifying, isn't it? It's a tight track. No room for those mistakes.
Nearly went the Anto line through there, but they're all going to have to come onto pit lane because that is not cars that are going to improve without a bit of panel beating.
Luckily, you can escape once you're in your pit bay to get a fresh car. So they will be able to carry on their assault for GT4 pole position. Didn't expect to have a multi-car crash in qualifying, but here we are. Costello, he was really unlucky there. He came up across 4 slow-moving cars, all on the racing line, and I go to David for my sector time check. Was he doing any well?
If they've crossed the line, it's reset on me. 102's just had an incident.
Oh no. 102, that's HBAG Race on Oz. And I reckon that's happened at McPhillamy as well. Slow down Skyline, rear end is all askew. Racing score replay getting a workout.
With the Taipan car in front of it, or behind them here. It's Taipan behind them at the moment.
In front. Don't know if I'm... Oh, no. Well, he did do it by himself. He made that mistake. But he's pinched those brakes quite a bit, trying to gather it up. And the Taipan car here, Matty Jones, didn't know much about it. Just couldn't make up his mind where to go. Can't really fault Matty Jones for that one. So, another 2 cars back to pit lane. That's 5 cars in the span of 2 laps. And there's now just 6 minutes left to go for the GT4s out here in Mount Panorama.
Kimichev's just set another fastest of all sector on the flying lap that he's doing right now. This car should be on a good lap right now. Only a couple tenths shy of the pole position. Only just over a tenth shy of pole position. Comes to the line now. What's he going to do?
He backed out. He backed out into Murray's corner. He broke very early. Just setting himself, I think, for this lap. Nails the apex. Smoothly and quickly on the throttle. Up mountain straight. Driving with Caleb Hyde to Mario Vartanian. It's a young combination, but one that...
I can understand why they sent Kimichev to qualify then.
Yeah. Despite that youthfulness, quite a bit of experience in iRacing, the Hyde to Vartanian. And they're both reasonably quick drivers as well, so probably the dark horse combination this one, I'd say, in GT4. Not least of which because of livery B or black. Flat out for quite some time now, which makes getting an exit of a cutting very critical because you're not lifting through here.
Out sector 1, no personal best sector 2.
How brave can he be to try and claw some time back? Playing with that throttle as he comes through McPhillamy. As late as he dares on the brakes, takes a couple of stabs at them to help settle the car. Through the dipper, slides probably a little bit wider than he wanted to. Gets away with it. Was able to get the throttle in one go. And now's when his application really matters. A little bit shallow on entry for my liking. Sort of compromised his line a bit. Would have had to delay his throttle application.
There's nothing lighting up here, and these tyres are now on their 3rd or 4th flying lap.
Yeah.
I think you're basically qualifying over at this point unless you get a miracle cloud or a miracle toe here. The tyres are past their best. Sun's on the track. I got to say, UV.
He's got time to pit now, and there you go, and have one last crack at it with some fresh tyres. So not the last we've seen of him, I don't think.
92's up on their best lap through the chase now. Jake Maloney. No pit entry there, so it's this set of tyres to the end for sure then. Looking to improve on 212.4.
Get wide there through Murray's corner. 212.361. That's improved. Stays 5th. Pretty tight at the top. 5 cars separated by half a second. Here's SVG. 212.0. A couple tenths down on the time that currently has him on top of the leaderboard. If he didn't have that time, that would have only been good enough for 3rd. Bit scruffy out of turn 1 there. I think there's not so many time though. Michael Schreier has got a time on the board. He's sat behind SVG on the racetrack. He's enough for 11th right now for the number 14 SSR car. 2:30 and 4:52. If he finds 0.05 of a second, Schreier will leapfrog Team Jinx Shifters on the leaderboard. 2.5 minutes to go for the GT4s.
Personal bests from 51 and the 22. So they're 8th and 9th and looking to improve on this lap, the way they're running at the minute. It's Jinx Shifters with Chris Coxhead and the Race on Oz 22 with Luke Mitchinson. A bit further along the lap, we join Chris Coxhead.
Our sector's looking for the 77 because Madison Down's going to get a slipstream here up Conrod Straight from the other Jinx Shifters car, the 52 of Aaron Gilbert.
Orange sectors for the 4 so far. Crosses the next. We'll know if he got a huge toe down the Conrod Straight.
Gilbert backed out just before halfway, so Down will be a little bit annoyed at that. The 51. Invalidated lap time for Coxhead. Here is Madison Down. Remember, involved in that crash up at McPhillamy Park.
Did go green in Sector 5, just this final sector.
Perfect through Murray's corner, best I've seen so far. To 11.895. Oh, he's 1/10 shy.
And he's
Goes
split
to second.
1/10 of a second gap between Falcon Racing and R8G to go onto the front row for class.
Racing Oz cars trying to trip over each other as they come to the line. Costello beginning one last attempt. I think those 2 Racing Oz cars both just ruined their final lap split they did there. Vlad Kimachev's just begun his final lap for R8G. Guest Triple A. Have turn 1 for him as all of the road available.
And this is a great lap to be a driver in this qualifying session because they're 3rd right now. But you've only got to find a 10th around the big track that is Mount Panorama Circuit in GT4 machine. You know that that's out there somewhere when you compare the personal best sectors, when you compare the optimal. That time is reachable, it's attainable. And this final flying lap, you can be a hero. You can be the winner on Saturday to lead to the green on Sunday. Just only got to find just over 1/10 of a second to try to take pole away.
Here's a 51 through the chase. Just a 1/10 of a second for Coxhead will move him ahead of the 102 Racing Oz car. Fine margins in this GT4 field, and Coxhead not going to finish this lap. So no dice for him. He'll start no higher than 8th in the GT4.
Some personal bests coming in here for Down.
What can the 77 produce? 1/10 shy at the moment of the provisional pole for GT4 class for the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour. Through Murray's corner. Gets it right again. No, he didn't. Too wide on the exit. Through the grass. 212.0. lost some time, and it's front row at best for Trans-Tasman Racing 77. Here comes Costello, Evolution Racing Team. What's he got up his sleeve? Currently fourth. 4 tenths for him will put him on pole. 2:12.3, can't improve. Van Gisbergen, does he move the marker further forward? No, he doesn't. And Kimichev has brought himself to pit lane. So unless Jake Maloney's got one heck of a surprise up the sleeve of that Porsche. Wide, like his teammate on the exit, and a 2:12.2, he improves but stays P5. It is Falcon Racing 50, Shane Van Gisbergen on pole position for the GT4 class tomorrow. And should he not start that car, it will either be Brad Newman or Nick Foster wheeling the GT4 number 50 to the green flag ahead of everyone else in class. Really, really strong performance from them, David. Van Gisbergen, I should say, he was the class all the way through.
Yeah, Madison Down and Vlad Kimichev both had an opportunity there. They sort of had the game on their boot in football terms, but you saw them stake out the final corner on the final attempt from Madison Down, and Vlad Kimichev gave away a second across the top of the mountain over Skyline and towards the dipper there on his final flying lap as well. So from a strong start to that final lap, he just couldn't hold on either. And you know, it's 6+ kilometers of full commitment, concrete walls very, very close here. It is not an easy track to go qualifying. It is an easy track to feel a little claustrophobic at speed. And you know, you love this if you're excited for the race tomorrow, because it's still 3 very competitive cars, very competitive lineups in some different makes there as well, within basically a 1/10 of each other at the top of the timing there. And we know a 1/10 around here is that's fractions of a second anywhere else.
Well, I say any of those top 5 cars could easily win the GT4 class tomorrow. Just 4.5 tenths between them. And I know that Evolution Racing Team and Trans-Tasman are going to be very strong in the race. So there's how they finish for the GT4s. Falcon Racing 50 on pole. Trans-Tasman Racing 77 alongside them. R8G Guest, 888, starting 3rd. Evolution Racing Team 117. Trans-Tasman Racing number 92. Taipan Esports on row 3. Row 4 is Race and Oz 102 and Jinx Shifters 51. And row 5 for the GT4 is Analytical Race on Oz number 22 and Jinx Shifters number 52. SSR number 14 and Drop Bear SBM make up the last 2 cars in the GT4 class. We'll go to a quick ad break here on SimSpeed TV, but stick around because right on the other side of this, it's time for the big one. Qualifying session for our 38 GT3 cars. to the virtual Mount Panorama Racing Circuit here in Bathurst. We have 55 minutes of GT3 qualifying ahead of us to set most of their grid and then determine the top 15 for the shootout. Immediately afterwards, it is the 2022 Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour. And David, if that GT4 session was anything to go by, this GT3 session with triple the amount of cars is going to be a lot of fun.
Right, we managed one red flag in GT4. We managed a little bit of traffic, particularly between about, the cutting and the elbow. That's always, one of the more committed parts of the racetrack where the walls are closest, the sight lines are shortest, and the traffic's most difficult to deal with. Again, the GT3 cars, quicker, more of them on track at once. And I think they're playing for just slightly bigger sheep stations as well.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of them west of Bathurst.
In the break, we're having a little bet on the amount of red flags. Jay said he thinks no red flags. I reckon 3. And David reckons 2 red flags. So we'll see who ends up closest. Let us know in the YouTube chat or the Facebook chat how many you reckon we're going to get. Hopefully it's 0. But it's Bathurst. It's 38 drivers. It's a sim, so there's no danger. Probably going to have a red flag or 2. That's my thinking anyway.
Only danger to the people whose direct drives aren't turned up to 100.
Yes, God bless the souls of direct drive users involved in crashes.
So, bit of property to the left, bit of property to the right, some nice places around here. Kenny Habul's been a busy boy these last 2 weekends. He's in South Africa now, he was in Daytona last weekend. Without, shining spotlight too brightly on the fella, do you know approximately where around the mountain he's picked up a little pad?
Was it the house we just passed?
I feel like, Shakedown's just back there on the left. I'm not sure, but it was definitely, the property was well advertised as being for sale for some, decent coin. And then it turned out it was him who was the successful bidder or negotiator or whatever. I'm jealous, but...
I just want to say, that hill from the exit of the chase down at Murray's Corner is my most hated hill in the world.
It's because you walked it once and you got no calves?
More than once, but the second one, yes.
Ah, fair enough.
It's just no fun.
I was doing a little bit of flight sim around here, as you might have seen the other day, and you forget that this is actually at a bit of altitude. I live all my life and all my activities at sea level. And you go for a walk around the track, okay, there's elevation change and it's 6 kilometers, but 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet actually makes just a little bit of a difference when you're not accustomed to that as well.
Important to note, the difference between the bottom of the hill and the top is not 2,000 feet, I don't think, but that's...
No, but even the bottom of the hill is 2,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah, but that's... Now, can you imagine that? 2,000 feet drop from skyline. That'd be wild. Here we go. GT3's rolling out for qualifying, led by Falcon Racing. Not the same one that is sitting on GT4 pole, though.
Now, that is Cooper Murray in the 69.
Yes.
Ably assisted by Jared Filsell and Kostecki.
Instant favourites. Kostecki's really good on the sim. Filsell's really good on the sim. Cooper Murray's just really good.
Cooper Murray does, I think, quite a little bit more of the international endurance iRacing leagues than we often see him in an Australian time slot. He's done 24-hour series esports a couple seasons. And other stuff like that. So very, very well versed in iRacing endurance racing, as well as being Porsche champion.
Not quite. Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Well, he's damn good in a Porsche Cup car too.
He was 4th in the Carrera Cup last year. I don't think he missed around in the end. He almost did after he won the Australian selection for the Porsche Junior Shootout over in France. Didn't unfortunately win that, but came back and recorded a race win right here at Mount Panorama in the final race of the season. Not sure on his plans for 2022. Hopefully they involve Porsches. I imagine they will. And I imagine it involves Carrera Cup Australia. If it does, he's probably going to be a title favourite. But what about a favourite for the OSR Bathurst 12 hour? Well, let's see if he can put down the marker straight away as he begins his qualifying attempt in the BMW.
Very, very qualifying line out of the final corner to set up a super late apex and just not leave anything on the table starting his first flying lap. And given that increased chance of a red flag in this session, I think that's on everyone's mind if they've been watching what happened for the GT4s. This is a pretty critical and pretty important lap. GT3 don't need to worry about building up the tyre temperature quite as much. After one outlap, this car is definitely going to be good to go, and in fact this might be where the tyres are at their absolute best. Perfectly clear track in front of him, right up towards the concrete in every part of the track possible. You can line through the cutting to boot.
We kept mentioning how an early lap time is important in GT4, even more so in GT3s with 38 cars out there. Everyone bunched together at the start, high percentage chance of a red flag. Luckily these guys and girls have got 55 minutes to play with here. Oh, someone hit the fence somewhere there. Heard it in the background of my headset. It might have just been Murray's effect actually, getting right up against the fence but not actually hitting it. You know, iRacing is sometimes with that.
Oh, when something really exciting happens on track, the fans love banging on the chain link.
Yeah, really maximising the track, isn't he? Getting right up against that concrete on either side, on entry and on exit. It's so good to watch here from Cooper Murray. It's a really committed lap from him out of the gate, and I won't be surprised if this is a lap, should he complete it, that stands the test of the whole session in 55 minutes.
Well, understandably, everyone on their first flying lap is lighting up the timing screen as personal bests, but the all-time best sectors, 3 of them belong to Josh Anderson in the 36. So the first time to hit the board is going to be Cooper Murray in the 69, as a very, very respectable Bathurst lap. But I think watch for the 36 to go fastest out of the first four.
Yeah, we're going to get quicker. Got a bit ahead of myself for what tyre warnings are thing. But he's actually been eclipsed on even on that lap by 3/10 by Reese Gasul. Look out for R1 SimSports. For reference, it was just over a mid 2 minute. My golly gosh. What's happened there?
Someone's in a very, very compromised spot.
I think it's a Synergy Sim Racing car on the exit of turn 1. Again, there's a Ferrari, the number 25. That's gone straight ahead at turn 1. No, actually, yes it has. There's the number 88 Synergy Sim Racing machine, minus the front bumper. Good to see I've guessed one thing right about it being an SSR car. Here we go. Virtual Racing School. Tell us what happened.
There's a little bit of consternation at turn number 1. That's how it's happened. HBC rear gives way.
Oh,
and right the flip. That's how he lost the boot from HBC, and how 88 went for a double twirl with...
That's something out of the Winter Olympics right there.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. 180 with a 90 turn and facing the wrong way.
Get that car on the ski slopes. That was mad.
Well, we've got a ski jump here at Mount Panorama, but that's not how you want to start off your session, because...
Isn't it?
I think it's going to take a lot of limping around to get to the pit lane.
Yeah, just had a call from race control inquiring to the drivability of the 105. No red flag as of yet.
Vendeval putting on a show in qualifying. The 36 here is on an in-lap, no personal best sectors there, but the 82 has gone fastest of all in Sector 4, which I'm pretty sure is from Skyline through the dipper and down towards the elbow. The most committed sector. So So they're flying along. Personal best in the 2 as well. No, but also an in-lap. So both of them in the Porsches, your current pole sitter provisionally, and their teammates in the 82 here.
What's going on here?
Choice of manufacturers in GT3.
See, one car has gone for another lap. Everyone else is pitted. The GT3 cars, you can get quite a few good laps out of them. What's the guy behind the one and done strap from most of these teams? They're just getting the iron early on.
Well, I think you get a lot of good race laps out of a GT3. You know, the level of downforce they've got, the ABS and the TC, etc. You know, when the tyres start dropping away a little bit, the car doesn't mind so much in terms of the drivability and the consistency in, you know, the race stints. So double stinting the tyres, even up to triple stinting the tyres, absolutely a good strategy to do in the race. But in qualifying, it does matter, that last 10th on the very, very freshest of boots. So how they qualify to how they race is a lot more discrepancy to these GT3 cars, I think.
We just caught a glimpse of Twitchy Foot Racing, that's my favourite. Daniel Birchnell at the wheel, David Riddell, Glenn Arnott, Scott Wooden, all part
Better
of the
than
team
an itchy foot. You got to get out the talcum powder for that.
And we're currently looking at the Logitech G Altus Esports competitor. The number 43, I think that's it. Andrew Carr was at the wheel. And there is Cooper Murray flying down the hill. That's an interesting one, because looking at that combination, I could not tell you for certain that any one of these 3 drivers is the right choice for qualifying. I mean, you could chuck all 3 of them in, and all 3 of them could put that car on pole.
Yeah, I mean, especially thinking about that long race tomorrow, you sort of rate all 3 of them as I think pretty equal. I might prefer Phil Sell for qualifying, just personally, when it comes to. You know,
do you think Murray's just pulled rank on the real world guy? I've gone overseas. Would you so's Kostecki? Brody, yeah. Brody's gone and raced in America at the very start of his career. So,
might have had to have been rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe we'll see all 3 of them in. There's still 50 minutes to go. Maybe the Lynch got a bite of the cherry. Something I'm seeing a lot of is drivers trying to get out of the way in the right spot.
There's only so many right spots, and there's a lot of cars.
Well, that was an awkward spot for someone then. It's going to be very hard for anyone to get a clean lap in without seeing a slower car. As soon as you take your eyes off what you're doing and just check what's that slower car doing, it can be all that's required to throw your lap out the window. So, ultra focus, the requirement here for these drivers on a fast lap. Josh Anderson going for another fast lap, 2:01.6, still 9/10 away from what this car did in practice a little earlier on. The track, as you mentioned though, is heating up, so that'll have some effect on the lap times. We might not see the dizzying times of a mid-2 minute flat.
This is your lap of the gods right here. Purple 1, 2, and 3. He's wheeling it. He's right up against the walls. This is the 4th sector down the hill, and he's purple there too. All the way from the start to right now, he's been on it. Just a little bit of first gear in the elbow as well. Not really for the traction, but to help the car rotate. Requirement for the Porsche. So just a little bit of slipstream down Conrod, if you don't mind.
If we're going to see a mid-2 minute flat, it might be this lap here from Anderson. Steady on. Through the chase, braking at the about 125 meters. He's braking there from the apex of the chase. No hint of a slide at all from this Porsche. It's hooked up. Jordan Ross is calling for a tow over the radio. We'll check on that in a minute. Let's finish this lap. Out of Murray's corner. Josh Anderson, 2:01.3. He finds 3/10. And the red flag is out. He's got that in by the skin of his teeth.
Wow, Cooper Murray was on a pretty good one just behind him there as well in that 69. I think he just got to the line too. Wow. Not unexpected, but it's not something you can plan for exactly when, where, or how a red flag might come out.
So car 143 has brought about this red flag on the entry to Griffin's Bend with no visible damage on an outlap. How peculiar. Oh, he's got moving now. So, technical failure. We'll put this one down to. He moved about 5 meters just then, but he stopped again. No power, as you can hear from this replay. Thoughts, David?
Well, I did a little bit of reading, and I don't know exactly what has happened here. It doesn't. 300 RPM is not the idle.
Maybe it's out of gas. Have you seen that audio going around?
No.
No. I'm sure someone out there has.
You know, there was a while where the Bentley GT3s had the pit lane speed limiter off and the engine kill switch, both in orange next to each other. And someone hit the wrong one. That's weird, the rear wheels, right? It's rolling backwards, but then they spool up, and it's like you can't keep it in first.
But David, this is really critical. If he can't get this car going, he's done for the session. If he can somehow get it going and go back to pit lane, he may be able to improve on his time. He's currently 15th, and we're expecting times to probably improve for most of those drivers in that region. He's going to run out of time soon. Race control are going to make up his mind for him. It is out of fuel! Wow. I wonder if he's requesting an actual tow or a push here from the safety car. Oh, the safety car just got deployed out of pit lane.
I think the Porsche Cayman's got the gears and the brakes and the controller for towing a big beamer.
Is Nick Parker going to push Jordan Ross around the circuit? Is that fair? Judging by the speed of that, he's not. He waves goodbye to him. Yeah. And Jordan Ross, Synergy Sim Racing, Smith & Sons, 143. Their session is over. There's no gas in that car.
Wow, it's like England a couple months ago.
Can someone please clip that specific part of the broadcast and overlay the TikTok audio of the redneck going, it ain't got no gas in it? Thank you in advance. So, red flag number 1 of our session. 14 minutes to go. I did hear that the checkered flag is going to be 5 minutes before the timer runs out, so that everyone can get their lap in after the checkered flag has waved, if you are on a hot lap at the time. What are we thinking of the order so far, David? Any standouts at the top or down the bottom that shouldn't be there? Or what we didn't expect to be there, I should say?
Well, at least for qualifying cars, it seems like the Porsche and the Ferrari are good machines to have. You've got a Porsche on provisional pole, and the Ferrari of R1, and then the other Vendaval Porsche, and then the Logitech G Ferrari. It's to 5th where you find the first BMW.
Yeah, good to see different manufacturers at the top. BMW might need a bit of a stronger representation, though, inside the top 5. See if they can get there. Jordan Ross has popped into the YouTube chat. What happened, Jordan? What went wrong? Did you really forget to put the gas in the car? Because I haven't seen that before. Not in iRacing. In a big event like this. I don't think I've seen it in the real world either.
I saw a car.
It's quite the mistake to make, especially in the real world.
I saw a car at Red Bull Ring do the tyres and then take fuel as a GT3 because they hadn't selected the fuel. The car came in, immediately went up on the jacks, and the driver went, hang on, that's not right. So that was, I think, old mate Gianni Vecchio. land rush off of pit lane again. But it happens. Different people are running different systems. Sometimes they have the fuel unticked as a default. Some people have their fuel ticked as a default. And if unticked is your default, and if you get to tick it, well, that's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it?
Yes. The car that won the exit out of pit lane as we got the green flag was Sam Sutton for TriStar Racing 111. And Sutton's racing with Blake Neck and Joe Mumford. So we'll see both of them in action tomorrow. I'd say Blake Neck would be an equally good choice for qualifying here for Sam Sutton and team. Currently 17th though, so not doing all too bad as Mr. Sutton. Another one of those combinations where there's multiple drivers who could very easily go out there and do that top job.
Sutton and Mugford, I think, better known for their V8 touring car exploits, and Blake Neck, I think, has always been a bit of a fiend for the GT cars and the endurance racing. I swear I used to race against him in the iRacing VLN series in 2016 or something.
Way back when in 2016. 6 years ago, can you believe it?
Oh, Albert fella I used to race against in that one. Beat him once.
That's a mood. So, Sam Sutton, why don't we go on board for a lap in the BMW? Oh, we've done a lap in the BMW already, haven't we? That was at the very start of the session. With
we had some Porsche on board. What we haven't had is some of the Ferrari action, because I've heard a rumour 2022 is Ferrari's year.
Is it now? Well,
yeah.
Let's go find our on Sim Sports. John Peasnick's just started a lap, and Peasnick, he's a damn good GT racer.
Yeah. Wasn't it Gasol in this car earlier in the session?
Yes.
So, yeah, that makes a change, doesn't it?
Took the red flag as an opportunity to switch around their driver. And their third driver.
That front washed out a little bit there in turn 2 at Griffin's Bend. There was a lot of steering angle and it wasn't where you quite want it to be. That can be a Ferrari problem. There's still a lot of steering angle from there as he holds it in third for some reason through the cutting. I think this lap might not be the preparation that they were looking for. It's no improvements, no personal bests, 1, 2 and third sector is right as they then throw the car across in the skyline.
Luis Paulo Gallen is their third driver. Another one that, again, could just put this car in pole if he wanted to. Cameron Stubber as well. So one of the 4 driver combinations we've got out there for the 12-hour tomorrow. Some varying rules for the minimum and maximum amount of laps you can do based on 3 drivers or 4 drivers in the car. We'll talk about that tomorrow. When it all matters. Doesn't matter for qualifying right now. Just listen to how late he brakes to chase him. It's daring. It's daring, and at that such high speed, if you brake even half a second too late, David, you're miles gone from where you're supposed to brake.
Right. 300 kilometers an hour is basically, approaching 100 meters per second.
Yeah.
That lap, I thought turn 2, the lap was gone. He kept pushing on the rest of the way around. I didn't think it was going to be an improvement after turn 2. Cooper Murray's got a bit of improvement. There's other drivers out there as well. Like this SSR 27.
Kenneth Ladder at the wheel. Currently P20, 202.7 his best. Make that a 202.5 as he crosses the line. You'll pick up a couple spots. 5 spots in that. No, escape back to pit lane, Kenneth. That was the telltale pull-over, stop, escape move, wasn't it? And I think someone just yelled at him over the radio, "Don't you dare."
That was being very, very generous at letting cars past. He'd come to a stop there. I love it. We've got Blacktown Mazda on something in GT4. Got a Chuka Toyota for a BMW up here in GT3. Team Fordzilla love racing any mark manufacturer. Not sure if they want pit in, not sure if they do or don't.
Fordzilla. Oh man, I want the Nissan in this game so bad. Put the Nissan in iRacing and my life will be complete.
You can aim a little higher than that though.
Look, I've got low expectations. I can't have to be disappointed. Oh, ladder! Kenneth! No! Simon Chadwick's just been held up monstrously through McPhilby Park. We saw how cautious Kenneth was being, and he still managed to get in someone's way. That's really unfortunate. But on your screens, here's the Ferrari, the Torque Inc. aggressor, Ashley Lear. Oh my, loving a massive plane.
Mitch McLeod, who's driving right now.
Thank you. I could not for the life of me remember his first name. Mr. Scotty Fontaine, whether he drives or not remains to be decided. And Sam Stride.
Only one personal best sector so far for Mitchell McLeod, and that's he's heading for pit in.
Aiming for a PB and pit entry. Really committing there.
Well, it'll matter in the race for sure, won't it? That
Yeah, it will.
a difficult pit entry, how you manage to navigate that one, how hard you attack it. I've seen people mess it up. In fact, I've seen people mess up the final corner and spin into pit lane as well.
That's true. I love
That little gap. Oh, it's on the right of the screen there. You watch enough racing at Bathurst, you've seen a lot happen. Anything does, can and will around this place.
So, 30 minutes still to go. Back with Sam Sutton, P20. The GT4 cars were easy flat in the tree there, so are the GT3 cars. Well, you do have to be a little more careful to get your line right. Still flat, still flat. Now a lift in the McPhilby. So, the exit of the cutting, you really want to get on the throttle as quickly as you can, because you're full throttle for a long time after that.
This is where the Hyundai XL experience, transfers to a GT3.
I've driven a lot. Have you driven a Hyundai XL around Bathurst?
Nope.
Sam Sutton has driven a Hyundai XL, I suppose.
I watched some of the onboards. They are flat from the cutting all the way around.
They also don't do much racing. They go to Bathurst, but
No, they're over under on a red flag. It's about the same as this GT3 qualifying session. We're going to get a little slipstream here for the triple one. That's a personal best sector down the Conrod straight there. So helps.
Adjust the braking zone for the extra speed. When you're in a big toe, that makes a big difference. There's been a factor there of the toe. Brady Stanley comes in the pit lane. Not sure if that was the right choice of words. How's the lap stack up for Sutton? Pretty good. PB 202.609. Up to P18. So we're seeing cars doing one lap, maybe 2 laps, and pitting straight away. Just not even attempting to push for any length of time longer than that. And that might be partly because of the track temp having gone up 10 degrees since the start of the session. That is when the GT4s were out, but it's getting ever hotter out there. It's going to make improving on your lap pretty difficult.
Yeah, and the clouds come and go as well, but they've been going rather than coming for the last 10 minutes or so, and we're sort of like in a staggered sawtooth climb of track temperatures. It'll stabilize for a little bit, the sun will come out, they'll climb, then under the clouds it'll just stabilize, and then when the sun comes back out, it keeps climbing again.
There's a lot of BMWs. It seems like every car we pick up is a BMW. Here's the 105 BMW, HBC Racing. Matthew Cordelone at the wheel. Only driver in the session, so clearly the only driver going to qualify that car. So we head over to the entry list spreadsheet to find out who he's driving with. Or on screen, thank you, Jay.
Or on the roof. Take a look at that paint.
Come on, get us the angle, Jay. Work your magic. That's not quite it.
Oh,
That's
scary.
terrifying. There we go.
Okay. I mean, careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Yeah. Carterline. I think I called him Quarterline. It's Matthew Carterline, driving with Hayden Jackson and Brady Buchanan. How's the lap going to look for him? Currently 23rd. 202.8 is his best so far. And as he crosses the line, 202.5. That's a really good improvement there. That's going to move him well up the order from 23rd up to 16th. Very nice. Why isn't my iRacing updated? Well, there we go. Now he goes to 16th. Make that 17th. Someone's already eclipsed him.
Another pretty strong 3-driver lineup. Ethan Grigolds, I'm gonna guess, is doing the qualifying, am I right? No, Riley Preston's in at the moment. Alright. There you go. Final sector, it's looking pretty good except for that twitch on the way in. Timing, you know, you were thinking a 201 something might have been possible there. It's just a twitch on the way into the final corner.
A couple tenths down on the best lap time so far for that car, 202.1. It has been Riley Preston at the wheel for the entirety of this session so far.
Hope the third driver's not Tiger Woods. I don't trust him behind the wheel anymore.
Damon Woods. That's all I'm saying there.
But I trust him to drive, so...
XCM, say fresh set of boots, please. Hey, remember that conversation about why is Cooper Murray qualifying and not Phil Sell or Kostecki? Well, Kostecki's racing a sprint car in Toowoomba. So that was a busy time for him. He's well, I assume he's Southeast Queensland based. Gold Coast based, Brisbane based. Drive back tonight from Toowoomba. Hop on the sim tomorrow morning, ready for the start. Busy period for him. As our provisional pole sitters continue to sit pretty by 0.3 of a second.
I'm not finding any improvement so far on this lap, though I say that, pretty committed down the mountain. That's a purple, sector 4, that's the sector from the top of the hill in towards the elbow. But does one small, good sector make up for losing time across the first 4? Will there be any slipstream or any toe down Conrod?
I'm happy just to listen, honestly, to these cars.
I'm so glad that the new 992 generation still has high revving atmospheric engine. I think he got a bit of a slide trying to keep the power down out of the chase, and this is on the way to pit entry. Just going to abandon that lap and put another set of tyres on. I'm excited for S5000 and Cup cars and whatever on the Gold Coast. Just echoing off the buildings around there.
The S5000s are something to be experienced, that is for sure, in person. Here's there was a striking river.
I watched one practice session in Melbourne in 2020.
I'm not going to say anything. This feels like a trap. The
10 years ago.
The number 73, simrigs.com DPR, Daniel Misdale at the wheel, O'Shea, Bilson, and who was that first driver there? You don't leave the overlay open for long enough, Jay. Misdale, O'Shea, Cock, and Bilson, the 4 drivers there. I'm assuming on pronunciation, correct me if I'm wrong.
So very few drivers out there right now. We talk about that track temperature. Very few finding much of any improvement.
It's that track temp. It's just hampering them, isn't it?
Velocity Sim Labs have got a little bit of improvement from their best. We're going to see for Sector 4 here. This is the one down the mountain, downhill, the Glen Postlethwaite sector.
Well, they're going to see a big toe if that car stays there in front of them.
Yeah, so green, which is personal best in 1 and 3. Potential for a good movement on the Delta here in Sector 5.
Fortunately for them, that car got out of the way. I believe that was Bailey Frid in the Pursuit Sim Racing number 5, currently P11. This car P27. Capel driving with Brian and Moraes. In towards Murray's corner. Another one that, just like turn 1, is so easy to get wrong. It's only a 90-degree left, but unlike turn 1, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's the last corner, and there is an improvement there up to 23rd. Because you've done your entire lap, if you know you're on a good one, it's so easy to just push up a little bit too far to try and keep that delta positive.
I get that it's so easy to overdrive it into turn 1, trying to do too much on the first day of school, and then to just be too cautious.
Yeah.
In the final corner, being like, oh man, we're up 3/10 here, and then you end up just trying to make sure you take that one to the bank, and end up only being a 1/10 and a half up instead of the 3/10 up you should have been because you were so overcautious in the final sector. Then the other side of the coin is if you do get the grass or buck up the rear on turn in or mess up that very final corner, you kind of don't forgive yourself for it. So the psychology of a long lap like here, trying to put together a good one and bank it is different to some other circuits. Even though the drivers have got plenty of time in this session, you only get so many laps and it weighs on you. Okay. So a personal best 1 and 2 now. The track is just stabilizing the temperature. They will be able to do some setup tweaks to maybe try to find more in the car in session.
Yep, definitely. Dial some, I don't want to say oversteering maybe. If your car's understeering, you want to dial some oversteering. But the track conditions as they heat up generally makes it more slippery, doesn't it?
I think
that car's broken.
And it's thrown away the lap. What was 4 PBs for Josh Anderson? He comes across a very, very crippled car in the elbow, and it throws away his lap. Meanwhile, his teammate in the 82 goes fastest of all in the second sector. I
am astonished that Lee Williamson got out of the spot he was in. I mean, either be from Simon Peterson as well. Wow. This was about a 27-point turn here from Williamson. He got it all wrong coming through the S's. Now add some Benny Hill music and watch the drama unfold.
Oh, well that put him in an even worse spot, that little clip. It just undid all that he did in the first couple turns.
Man, how's he got away with that? Limping back to pit lane, he'll get his spare car back in his pit bay and carry on, but it could have been so much worse with so many more people. It was just that initial turn in down Skyline that unsettled the car, and then it swung like a pendulum the other way. Nothing he could do about that once he lost it. You said the 82 was going purple, didn't you, at some point?
Yeah, and then I've abandoned that lap as well.
Yeah, currently third. And exiting pit lane. It's a stunning livery. Australia-wide racing purple in the back is shot there. In the Ferrari, Sean Anton McLaughlin, who's at the wheel, accompanied by Glenn Watkins and Aaron Major for the race tomorrow. I'm a fan of that. I like it. black and white.
The one in front of it too.
Williams, Kurt Stenberg.
Did that get the wall for R1 Sim Sports?
It's going to push on. No, he's not. He's going to balk the Vendaval car.
It's a drop there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little more, well, far out. It's blue, white, and black.
Come on, man.
It's just...
Playing with us.
You ever seen G Performance RSR, Urano, and Redline all on track together?
No, I don't think I want to.
They're all just red and black.
Should have tried to differentiate all the new Porsche Cup cars from one another. They're hand over day S&P. 32 identical liveries.
I don't want to ruin, everything ever for everyone. But if you look really closely at the factory livery on those new Cup cars, right? The detail is all the little circuits, right?
Yep.
They're not to scale with each other. Bathurst is like the same size as Snetterton or something. There's some tiny tracks, like, okay, that's a 3 kilometre layout next to Bathurst, and the scales wrong. There's Laguna Seca on there looking, Nordschleifer plump.
My takeaway from the car is I like the clicky sound that the shifter makes.
Have they got the sort of magnetic kind of...
Yeah, they do.
Good stuff.
Back to sim racing. There's Evolution Racing Team 26 as that car disappeared behind the one in the foreground. I wondered if it made the wall. I believe Preston got away with that. Preston on the wall, there we go. Through the dipper. The entry to Forest Elbows is pretty tough. Trying to keep the car to the right while braking, not letting it get away to the left, because if you do, it screws your exit. It screws you down Conrod and ruins your lap. Oh, look out for that car. Hard on the brakes. That was Josh Anderson just getting out of the way. Desperate not to give a toe to a rival there.
Anderson was up in 2 sectors on that lap, and there he is. Did he have a problem? What's the thinking there?
Delta might have dipped negative. Might have got it all wrong in one sector.
Still got 3/10 in his pocket on a track that seems to be going away from everyone. So, I mean, in theory, there's a better lap out there for Anderson in the 36. I think there's a better lap out there for the 82, his teammate Alexander Bird. But it's only really Bird that needs to find an improvement, because no one seems like they're going to find 3/10 to catch the 36.
What about Piesnik? Have you got the theoretical lap for him? Because I reckon this car's got it in it. It is P2. Let's remember, that car's second in the order.
The best sectors are a 10th missing in sector 2, 10th missing in sector 3, 10th and a half in sector 4. It's in the straight down Conrod of sector 5 that the Ferrari's making up a 10th and a half back, and then sort of losing a 10th in every sector that's got braking zone and corners. So I don't know if maybe he got a pretty good slipstream down Conrod as well on the lap that was his fastest lap for that sector, but it does seem like, relative to the Porsche, and it fits your intuition of the two cars and their engines and their weight balance, etc., that the Ferrari should be pretty good in a straight line. But when a Porsche is set up good and is being driven well, it just grips out of the slower corners.
There was no set straight. The race was sort of was at the time. Putting the backside down for this Alexander sports car. John Piesnik now. They've swapped drivers 3 times. Basul started, Piesnik hopped in. Basul had 2 laps, now Piesnik's going for his 4th.
And he's gone personal best in sector 1. This is what, I mean, 3rd gear through the cutting is a bit of surprise to me, if I'm honest. They're using third gear in some places I think you'd expect to see other GT3s use second. They got good torque, are they just doing that to keep the balance of the car and maximise the traction? A tenth off their best in the second sector, now to come to the completion of the third micro sector, and it's a personal best. So there's something out there to be found for the moment. There's a car to be found in front that he's got to put out of his mind until it's on his nose.
Stenberg's experienced. He shouldn't hold him up here. He's not. Shallow entry into Forest Elbow. He's going to get a tow for the first part, and there's a car just up the road that might give him a faint tow as well. That's Liam Reston in a BMW.
Still lost 1.2 tenths from Skyline to the Dipper to Forest Elbow.
He probably would have been put off a little bit.
Not to the pole, to their own best. So more to the pole time. It doesn't look quite as committed anymore. Well, on the other hand,
I don't know about that. He used all of the track then, and some. Well, let's see how this looks on the leaderboard. That's a mistake. If it was decent, what after that? 2:02.2. Just pitched to left front at the final moments of turn in there. Namuri's corner. Shot him wide. He'll try again. As out of pit lane alongside him comes the 9.5 Sport car. Carl Zink at the wheel. Good to see the 27's recovered from its big shunt earlier on in the session. It's Fishy 808. Whiting, Carmichael and Wadby. Currently down in 30th. 2:02.93 their best so far. It's been all Carmichael in this session for them, given the honours of qualifying this car. Something we haven't spoken too much about is the fight for 15th. It's a top 15 shootout. And at the moment, P13 is a 2:02 2.317, and P17 is a 2:02.368. So there's 0.05 of a second covering 5 cars around that cutoff zone.
yeah. We talk about sort of the provisional pole and that battle at the top 5 in this session, but really it's just to lock in your spot for the real shootout. Did the 155 find an improvement on that lap?
Someone's just improved.
Yeah, they did.
Is it 155?
Lock themselves into 11th at the minute.
They were outside the 15 as well. That put them in. And it's knocked Pulse. Nope, they improved as well, but not enough. They're still only 16th.
0.03 of a second between 15th and 16th is the cutoff at the moment as well. That's sort of, sometimes you have one person,
8,000
a couple
between 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Yeah, okay, well I was talking 15th to 16th. Sometimes in a grid like this, you get one person who's somehow 0.3 clear of everyone else. And in that middle, in the meat of the bell curve of our field and our talent, which is around this 15th cutoff, things can be so close, and they are.
Jason Bentz for XCM, currently 17th, crosses the line to begin a flying lap. Is that a maroon or is that a... I'm calling that maroon.
Flake red.
Driving with Letchford and Schaub. Candy apple red, actually, I think. Remember the Fujitsu red on the
No.
supercar? No, you don't? Well, that's what that looks like. I think. How the sector's looking.
Very few people improving, but another team that's on the outside looking in 18th at the minute. It's the Trans-Tasman Racing car being qualified by Ross Rizzo. He's just done a personal best in Sector 4. Again, that's across the mountain, through the Dipper. That one sector where if the track is going away from you grip-wise, a little bit of guts, a little bit of commitment, and a couple of weak picks can help you find a little bit of time right here.
I'm surprised to see this team outside inside the 15 at the moment. Ross Rizzo, Michael Healy, Emily Jones. Rizzo's been given the honours in qualifying. Needs to find half a tenth. Seriousness, all he needs at the moment. Still watching this Ferrari though. Dances its way out of Forest Elbow. Car 100. Are they finding any personal bests out there, David? This combination, bent at the wheel.
No, and even I think Rizzo gave up on the lap that he was on. The track temperature now risen to 45 Celsius. There's only so much time left in this session, and it's not a track that is still giving. Anyone who's finding improvement, it's because they had too much left in the jar from early in the session, or their setup early on was doing them no favors, or they swapped drivers. Go, a little improvement though for the 100.
Not enough. Oh no, it is enough. He went in. My iRacing takes a long time to update the standings. He went to 11th. So, Empower Summit Sim Sports get knocked out. Oof. Andrew Carr was sliding that thing towards the nipper. James Scott, Cody Deeth.
Okay.
That's not supposed to be there.
The wrong end of the beamer.
That's Daniel Birchnell, Twitchy Foot Racing. Might have been a bit too twitchy on the throttle coming out of Forest Elbow. There was an awkward spot here to try to flick it back the right way. He's backed it mostly off the circuit.
I just find reverse gear and keep that going for a couple hundred meters.
He's now got his butt up against the fence, so that's no longer a possibility.
Shout out Dwight Merriman leaving pit lane in reverse gear the other weekend. Now my favourite LMP2 driver of all time.
That's about right. See how Birchnell got here. Started on the entry for him, just slowly started to lose the rear and couldn't catch it. Slow, drawn out slide. He's ended up... Oh. Okay. So... He's... Oh, no.
Oh.
Did that other car tow? No, it got going. Birchnell's still there, but he has moved a few times. We're about to see him as we go by that area with John Peasney. There he is. It's Gasol now. They've swapped again. I don't know if swapping that many times does you too many favours. Interesting theory. I'm not going to steal it. Jay reckons they're maybe working out who's got the best one-lap pace ahead of the shootout, because they're definitely into that.
So this is one of the cars we were looking at earlier, and again, I love some international flavour. Benelux driver Copa was qualifying earlier, is still qualifying? Yep, Oscar Copa. Sounds Dutch to me, potentially.
Well, I can tell you that it doesn't tell me in the entry sheet, so who knows? I'm really hoping it will. Either way, this car is currently
In the shootout.
Yeah, in the shootout there. I can't find 155.
Rizzo's
There
on
it is.
another flyer. The car that's 18th in qualifying at the moment, and by all accounts, you think should make that shootout, should be in the top 15, and definitely a car to watch come race day.
Oh, for sure. You know how good Rizzo is when it comes to saving fuel. 18th at the moment, 202.368. If he finds 400ths of a second, he goes inside of the top 15. And there's just 3 minutes 45 seconds until the checkered flag comes out. He'll come to pit lane, ready himself for one last effort. The timer says 8 minutes, but checkered flag gives it 5 minutes to go so that drivers can complete their lap. That's a big crash for the Jock Bear in Cozy Car. Daniel Yeaman at the wheel. Everyone will be praying that car does not blow its engine completely when he can get back to pit lane, because if it does, that'll end the session.
Just can't drive that faster than 30. It's crabbing something absolutely fierce. Here's how he's ended up in that situation. Find some improvement. Late on in the session, pushing on, and did he get the wall?
What do you mean, did he get the wall?
Well, on the outside, descending to the left,
Oh.
or did he just lose it into the wall on the left-hand side? I wasn't under the illusion that there was some magnets hidden off track there, and they had a, lead weight. It's okay. It's too much curb on the
He's
apex,
missed it, yeah.
and then it gets away from him.
Sorry. Just saw a P-stick go by and straight. And the
You'll need a windscreen tariff if you try to slipstream someone putting down that much smoke. Let me tell you that.
I'll tell you what, the purple, the Pulse Dakota car, the Toyota BMW almost got it. Might have
Is
been
that a
bit,
Supra?
It might have been a bit blinded by the smoke. 2 minutes left into the pits, and your session will be over, boys.
Car currently 16th is, I think, making potentially a little bit of improvement.
Liam Reston. He only needs 5,000ths of a second. Can he find 5,000ths of a second to go inside the shootout? No, he can't. Damn, that was a big build-up. It's so close. A 407, it's still only 800ths away from what he needed. Super tight margins.
He needed a 319. He was on a 325, and he did a 404. It's just, for reference, we're talking milliseconds here. A blink is typically about 150, 200, maybe 250 if I haven't had a coffee. So it's like, oh yeah, he is, 100th of a blink away from improving, but he missed out by 2/10 of a blink.
By Energy Racing, Stenberg at the wheel, beginning a lap here. Now, 1 minute left.
It's a slightly more fossil fuel-y version of sun energy.
Here comes Mark 1, the 333. Haven't seen them all session. At the moment, they're on the outside looking in. Henry Thomas Kircher trying to find half a second. It's there, probably. 28th at the moment. Adam Murray's corner. He'll get one more lap with 10 seconds on the clock. He found a 10th. That puts him up a few spots. Now the fight's really on. The 15th place car is in pit lane. That's bold. 9-5 SimSport, number 951. They're in pit lane. So they're praying no one improves. Liam Reston's coming to the line. No, he's coming to pit lane. So that car in 16th, Empower Summit SimSports, will not be going to the shootout. Here's the 826 Iridium SimSports Blue. Luke Swan wheeling this BMW across the finish line. No time for him.
I think
26 pace syndicate, David.
I think that would have been the start of a flying lap if he wasn't 30 seconds too late. I'm not seeing a race control message for the
so
checkered flag yet, but
if we're wrong here, all the blame is to Jake because he's the one that told us this. Just so we're clear. Pulse it. Chuka Toyota. No time set. So we're going to stay this another 4 minutes to go.
Rizzo's on another flyer. Come on, son.
And Jay is doing God's work in screwing us over in commentary. Rizzo, does he improve? by 0.03 of a second. Up the order goes the 184.
I think he improved the lap time by such a small fraction. The car stays 18th.
Yeah, you're right. There's an immensely close battle for 15th, back to 18th, and then there's another 0.2 back to 19th. So it's these 4 cars scrapping over one final spot. I think 19th on back just don't have it in them. 956 sport car still in pit lane.
And we look at the cars in 16th, 17th, 18th as the most likely to find a minuscule improvement and get into the top 15 and dislodge someone. But anyone from behind could, pull something out of the bag or find a setup tweak or go for a driver change or whatever it may be and go, oh, here's the pace we were missing out on earlier. So if you're sitting in 15th, you're at risk from almost 20 cars.
What can 64 do? Currently 17th. Will cross the line with time to do one last lap. Good enough. A 10th off their best so far. Behind them, the talking car, Mitchell McLeod at the wheel. Can he pull something out of the bag? That would probably suggest not. Lap ruined at turn 1. We told you it was a danger spot. Bit of adventurous line there from Andrew Dyson. Got to be careful he doesn't stay still there too long. He needs to get back to the line. Well, he should be safe in the shootout, regardless of what he does. That car position in P9 at the moment for simrigs.com DPR. Picking up the Vendaval Sim Racing number 36 at the top, Joshua Anderson.
Missing 8/10 in sector 2 on this lap, by the way.
He hasn't missed. Well, he hasn't been dislodged from P1 all session. He should be, barring late change, the last car out in the shootout. Just getting that last bit of practice in. Into pit lane, waving the white flag on their session. One of our BMW teams doesn't narrow it down much. There's quite a few of them out there. They're a popular car. Empower Summit, the 55, currently 16th. They're the first car missing out. Liam Reston is pushing and pushing this thing to the limit. Can he find anything? Is there anything left in the tank for the number 55? It's just 0.005 of a second. That's all he needs to find. 95 Sim Sport are not on track. They will sit in pit lane and hope and pray and cross everything that no one improves. But it's a lot of risk for them to stay in the garage. Here comes Reston. Stays to the right. He's going to finish this lap. Isn't any good. It's his 18th lap of the session. Will it be a critical one? Across the line? No improvement there. 2:02.5 for him.
There is some real desperation out there as well. Cars that would have otherwise, done one flying lap and then pitted, staying out because they don't have time left. Just trying to go back to back. This is one of them. I saw Pulse Chuka Toyota stick with it as well. And
Don't know if they made it in time. They were at turn 1 when I saw them just before we went to Ross Rizzo here. Oh, he's messed that up. And he's getting out of the way. Kurt Stenberg's going to go through. So Rizzo, that car, with Emily Jones and Ely, I think it was, will not be in the shootout. Can Kurt Stenberg spring a surprise from 24th for Flame Energy Racing? Adam Murray's corner. In the flaming Mercedes, 2:02.5. It's 0.2 of an improvement, but it's not enough.
handful of cars still out there on track. Drop S692. And you've got to remember, for these cars that don't make the shootout, this locks them in. So, sure, an improvement from, 24th to 20-something. Doesn't get you into the shootout. It still moves you up the grid a little bit.
Yep.
Not going to be an improvement on that final one for Robert Gibbs.
105, HBC Racing. I think they're pretty much our last car out there. They're 19th at the moment. Matthew Cardalone. He needs to find a couple of tenths of a second. Across the line, no time set. So, there you have it. Still one more car. Still one last ditch effort. Surely these guys didn't get to the line, did they? No, they're done. So that is everything. That is everyone. And that is your field from 16th on back, set for the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour. The top 15, though, are readying themselves for an all-out shootout to determine our pole sitter. I think we'll grab the results after a little break here, so we'll take a little quick break here on SimSpeed TV. We'll wrap up the session afterwards and then get ready for the shootout.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the OSR Logitech G Bathurst 12 hour 2022 edition here on SimSpeed TV. We have set most of the grid. The GT4s have their pole sitter, they have their starting lineup, and the GT3 field is set from 16th on down. But now, David, now it's the shootout as we take a look at the 15 cars that will enter into this shootout in reverse order. So, your provisional pole sitter never looked challenged in that session. Vendaval Sim Racing 36, R1 Sim Sports in second, another Vendaval car, the 82 in third, and then Logitech G Altis in fourth, ahead of Falcon Racing 69, Synergy Sim Racing, the 88 and the 89 in 6th and 7th, Evolution Racing Team 26, Simrigs.com DPR 233, and LESE Esports 135 in 10th.
Major cars that are going to be in that shootout. Cross Continental Motorsports, RSR Esport with their international lineup. One of the teams I was talking about, I can see them racing against Urano and Redline and others. Got Pursuit 5, 5-Star Motorsports, and 9-5 that are the lucky top 15. The rest of them below that are locked in for the grid for tomorrow's race in the order you see.
But out onto the circuit for the outlap. Sean McNamara at the wheel of the 951 for 9-5 Simsport. He had the wheel for all of qualifying, and so he is tasked with putting together the perfect lap with everyone watching. The track to himself, it's a great feeling, but it is filled with pressure, and the pressure only ramps up the better you did in qualifying. A big opportunity for the drivers towards the bottom half of the top 15 to really vault themselves up the order. It's now just gone 3 PM in sim time, so that track heating up condition we've seen so far, David, that's probably going to swing the other way now.
Yeah, time has jumped a little bit between qualifying and the shootout, as it does. You want that shootout in the good prime time, how it runs. So there is a chance that the track stabilizes and cools off a little towards the end. It is still a partly cloudy day, so there is some just luck in that. If a cloud comes across when it's your time for your shootout lap, well, you know, cross your hands and thank whatever deity that you believe in at the mountain for this preparation lap. I think, if anything, for a GT3 car, you can heat the tyres too much on an outlap here, especially on a track like this. These conditions, a really cold track, you might want to really make sure that your 6-kilometre outlap warms all 4, but I don't think you've got to worry about underheating them in these conditions on these cars.
One lap, 6.2 kilometres, and Sean McNamara backs up the entry, and on to the throttle. Here comes a lap of Mount Panorama on board the BMW. Let's just listen to this one as he tries to get it all right.
On a Conrod straight, brush of the wall at the top of the mountain. At the metal grate, things got a little out of hand through the dipper. This is a car that is super pointy. But now it's just all about the run. Down Conrod straight. Can't do any worse than 15th, but can find some improvement if they're lucky.
You'll get away with that scrape with the wall, thanks to the way this session's set up. You can pick up a scrape, you can drop the tyres through the grass, and your lap will count. I love that we're letting them all hang it out on the line as across the line. 2:02.583 for McNamara, 2.5 tenths away from what he did in qualifying. All in all, not too bad there to get pretty close to the time he did in qualifying over the course of about 18 laps and do it in one.
Oh, I love that little left turn into the back paddock entry. That's, chef's kiss on that one. Next up, your 14th place qualifier, 14th shootout. First Ferrari we're going to see in the shootout too. These cars have been strong in a straight line, so I have to imagine if the track cools off, that's more strength to the Ferraris.
Cameron Nicholson's been handed the shootout duties. He's driving with Michael Brennan and Jason Cooper in the 12-hour tomorrow. Nicholson did 23 laps in qualifying. Really put the hammer down. His best came on lap 11. Got to try to get somewhat near that on lap 1. For reference, in qualifying, lap 1 for Nicholson was a 2:02.7. So let's see what he can do in the Ferrari. BMW up first, Ferrari up second. We'll have a Porsche out last. Love the different manufacturers we get in GT3 racing. Lap 1, turn 1. And Nicholson maybe a fraction wider than he wanted to be. I think that car's just understeered a little bit, but not too bad for tyres that won't completely be where he wants them.
Just quickly, thoughts on Ford entering GT3?
Yeah. That's all I've got for you.
Yeah, fair enough, alright.
That looks lovely at Griffin's Bend, using all the track on the exit. You can scrape that wall quite easily as well, as the rear end slides out from you, and then through the cutting, braking as you tip it in, and apply that power smoothly over a really awkward bump on the apex there, and then hold it flat as long as you dare. Tree, past Sundon Park, past Metal Grate, not quite getting out as wide as the Grate, giving a bit of leeway to the wall on the right, through Reed Park and through McPhillamy. He doesn't touch the curb either. So Nicholson perhaps just making sure he gets this lap in, but it looks clean and tidy so far. Oh, apart from right there.
Same mistake as we saw out of the last car. It just washes wide at the dip and nearly gets the wall on the right-hand side, and then compromised all the way through the remaining S's down towards the elbow. The elbow then sort of makes it all a bit of a clean slate as long as you get a good run off there. And again, Ferraris typically pretty strong in a straight line speed. Top speed we saw out of 9.5 was 281 k's an hour. 255, what are they going to get into the speed trap? 279. Okay.
Maybe not quite the exit they wanted from Forest Elbow. Maybe they've got a lot of downforce on this car to help it across the top, up and down on the mountain. Let's see how the overall lap time stacks up. Chasing a 2:02.58 from 9.5 Simsport, 2:02.9 from Simon Nicholson. So, off the bat, 9.5 Simsport have gained a spot on the grid.
Yeah, falling just a little short, and most of that coming in Sector 3. There was just a little bit of cloud coverage to the end there, which you'll love to see if you're coming up next in this session. Bailey Frid is for Pursuit 5. I'm pretty sure I saw it was Bailey Frid who was going to be doing the shootout duties. Indeed it is.
Taking a very slow outlap, isn't he? Bailey Frid here in the Pursuit Sim Racing car. He also managed 23 laps in qualifying. It took him to lap 19 though to get his best one in. His first lap was on the money, so this could be a really good lap from Frid. His first lap was on the money in qualifying. It was a 2:02.266, and in the end he did a 2:02.258. So we can pull that out of the bag again. Bailey Frid could be on for a top 10 here for sure, putting Pursuit Sim Racing in a really strong spot for the start of tomorrow's race. It's an endurance race, it's 12 hours. Qualifying does not matter anywhere near as much as it does in a sprint race, but David, if you qualify mid-pack, the dangers of being taken out on lap 1 are astronomical.
Yeah, we talked about the elevation change between the bottom and the top of the circuit. Well, how about the weather change? It's sunny on the sign. It is a lot cooler at the bottom of the mountain here, which is going to give you some confidence to start the lap if you're Bailey Frid. Hopefully going to have good grip, good rotation, and then good power off turn 1 up the hill to start the lap.
Gets the apex beautifully there on the middle of the corner. Did Bailey Frid. I'm going to tell you what, if this cloud cover disappears, the drivers that come out next will be livid. This is perfect for Bailey. He'll be hoping that the cloud cover chases him up the racetrack because he's just gone purple to the first sector, fastest we've seen so far.
Yeah, 22.695 to 22665. It's very fractional, but across the 6 sectors that I can measure, hey, if you find half a tenth in each of them to be 3/10 better, those are some good numbers considering how fine the margins car to car, team to team have been all through the qualifying so far. And I'm liking what I'm seeing here as well, the commitment and the car placement to flow the speed.
He, unlike Nicholson, is leaving nothing between his doors and the concrete. Trying to cut the S's as much as he could as well, using some of the grass in the middle. Gets the dipper much better than the first two we've seen in this shootout. Nice and smooth on the throttle on the Conrod straight. How the sector's looking now.
Still the only one that's been purple for Frid has been Sector 1, so I wonder what we'll see here in 5. Maybe this is a low downforce BMW that is going to be a bit of a straight line specialist. The speed passing 270 kilometers an hour now in towards the chase. I mean, it's looked good. The car placement's been good. And that is purple in Sector 5. So this is a car that's doing well in a straight line. Cumulative, pretty competitive as well. Compared to the cars we've seen before, it's a straight line performance for Pursuit 5. It's keeping them in touch.
202.258 he did on lap 1 in qualifying. It's a 202.563 he does in the shootout. Puts him ahead of 9.5 SimSport by just 0.02 of a second. And on to provisional pole for Bailey Frid.
Seeing every possible way to leave the circuit after your flying lap. Run down the escape road to turn 1 and then send it up the access road to the camping at the top of the mountain. Turn into the back of the paddock after turn 1. Whatever you fancy.
Up next, it's Oscar Copa for RSR Esport. 202.232, his best in qualifying. He's driving with Kelly and with Bailey. Seeing a few different approaches to warming up the car. Bailey Frid, it was very tentative. Oscar Copa's just rolling around at a pretty steady pace. And I think it was a pretty fast outlap for Nicholson. Track temps come down 3 degrees. So that'll be partly due to the cloud cover, but also the fact that we've jumped forward in time a little bit. This will certainly be good news to those coming later in the session, the likes of which Cooper Murray and Josh Anderson.
It's a matter of what goes up must come down. The track temp going up in the first qualifying session, sort of fizzle out a little bit, but now the track temp comes down. And you might see times tumble through the remainder of the shootout. Starting the flying lap for RSR Esports. Again, that line with the super late apex, really square it off. And we'll see if the BMW and this one for RSR are also doing well in a straight line.
Probably the best we've seen through turn 1 there from Copa. It was really smooth. Didn't let the speed drop too much in the mid-corner. It was on the throttle really early. BMW versus a BMW on top at the moment. In terms of straight line performance and in Sector 1, how do they stack up?
Purple, he was about 1-2 kilometers an hour faster into the braking zone than I've seen from others. So I do believe that when you flatten off the rear wing on this BMW, you can get some bigger performance. Through the cutting, he's going to cut a sliver off the front left, and I hope that they can stay committed to this lap.
No, he's going to. It was very wide coming out of Griffin's Bend as well. Thought he was going to understeer into the fence there.
Lost
got away with it.
All of that.
Yeah, it has cost him. I think most of that was at turn 2. Using every little bit. Going really deep through the S's. They really like to straighten out the exit to the dipper, don't they, David? And it leaves them with nothing to play with on the right. A little lock up in the middle part of Forest Elbow. That's going to hurt him all the way down to the chase. His throttle application was delayed.
He's line through the dipper was good. Purple in that sector, and I did like the little slide out towards the wall at the end of the elbow, but the numbers speak better than what we see with our eyes.
He missed a shift as well. I think probably from 4th to 5th, somewhere around there. Yeah, bounced off the limiter before he grabbed the gear. That'll hurt. Microseconds. Tiny things you've got to watch out for in a shootout lap. 202.563, our current best. He shot wide at Murray's corner as well. I think this one might put him... Wow! That's a shot. 202.542. Despite a few errors, he's gone to the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, also Purple in the final sector there. So Purple in 1, up the hill through turn 1, and up Mountain Straight. Purple in 4 through the dipper. Purple in 6 through the chase, and then the drive through Murray's. Next up, another one of Ferraris.
He didn't even get Murray's corner right either.
No, but I think it was pretty good. I liked the line through the chase. It really carried speed to the first apex and then hugged the right-hander on the exit and picked up the throttle pretty well. I mean, there's more than one braking zone and more than one throttle application to some of these sectors. You can get that last one just a little out of sorts. But if you bombed it into the chase, carried a lot of speed through the left-hander at the lowest point, then it could still be overall a pretty competitive sector. And the weather's kind of swapped around as well. It's sunny. Make sure you got your SPF 50 on the pit straight at the top of the mountain. You can probably venture out from outside your gazebo.
So, Jason Bentz for XCM in the Ferrari. Another driver whose best was a 202.2. There was a whole group of them in that time bracket in qualifying. Opening up the straightaway out of turn 1. The key to a fast lap here, it's not always smooth and silky. Sometimes living on the ragged edge can give you the reward. Just saw that from RSR Esport. Jason Bentz, very smooth so far.
Extra kilometre an hour as he went into Griffin's Bend, and the line there wasn't so bad. It wasn't the Purple fastest ever sector we've seen, but he's still right in here, and it was that sector 2 that was a trouble spot for RSR Esports. You know, you still got to compare yourself to the cars that might yet come, but I think this one is off to a good start, because that is a Purple sector 2, and the lines, again, exactly what I'd expect, floating through this section. Just a bit of the curb there. Get the car to rotate as it drops away across the crest there and then to Skyline.
He had a big lift of the throttle heading towards Reed Park. I think he may have had to adjust his line. Maybe he didn't get it quite right. Had to have a second stab at it.
I like the dipper line, and that is Purple down the hill too. So we've got 2 Purple sectors so far, and a big improvement to your current pole sitter, the fastest time on the board at the moment in sector 2. And the Ferrari was good up the mountain as well. I'm going to keep an eye on straight line speed down Conroe.
Up against the BMWs, they've been quick in a straight line. As he built up enough of the buffer, it's pretty quick at the end of the straight, I should say.
281 versus 281. He matched the BMW in the straight line there as well. But that is the bit where RCR was strong through the right-hander. Cross Continental Motorsports just picking up a bit too much of the inside curb at the right, not helping to put the power down to this final corner, but that's a little tidier. So swing the roundabouts, he's off the track.
And he's in the fence. 202.944, threw away the lap right at the end. He made the apex a lot better than RSR did, but then he found a bucket of understeer and tried to just keep his foot buried in the throttle, found the grass, and eventually found the Armco. So P15 so far for them originally.
He just wasn't liking the curbs at all through the chase. He got a little bit of the curb, massively unsettled the car, and he got just a tiny clip at that apex at Murray's, and then the car just, you know, got a little bit of air, started pushing a little wide, and as it's landed and the weight's come back onto the fronts, they haven't gripped how they've wanted, and it's sent him all out wide, wrong side of the curb, no traction off that corner to the very short run to the flag. And Purple in several sectors. Purple in 2 of them. The cumulative into the chase, I think, was the best we'd seen. And then it just fell apart from exit of the chase, this sort of opening up right-hander to the line. That's a shootout lap writ large, isn't it? I mean, you've got to finish the lap. You get one shot. Sometimes the pressure in the nerves gets to you.
Looked like he was skating on ice through the chase. He really struggled there. But here comes Daniel Edmonds, and he did his best qualifying lap on lap 1. If he can replicate that, he will go over the top by a decent margin. So all he has to do is match what he's already done. That's a big confidence booster for Edmonds. Or does it give him a lot of pressure? Let's see. He's in the Ferrari. Wesley Esports. Really deep into Griffin's Bend. Bit of oversteer mid-corner. It's either really good or it's cost him.
When the track's warm, you see just so much hand movement from the drivers trying to catch the rear of the Ferrari, just open up the throttle. The rear wants to slide around, but it lets you put the nose where you want it. Just corrections galore. It was fastest in the first sector, a little off in the second by about a tenth to where you'd hope they would be.
He was a lot better across the top than Cross Continental Motorsports, who did take a lift. Edmonds kept it flat, kept the fence on the right, and around he goes. Daniel Edmonds gets it wrong. We've seen so many flirt with danger coming out of the dip up with the fence on the right. Edmonds, well, he flirted a bit too strongly. He's caught a case.
It's a shootout. You got to have a dip, but the dipper has had him in that case. And everyone struggling with that, as you say. The first 3 runners or so looked like they really got out of sorts in the dipper and then had to roll out of it a little bit. And the good times have been so precise, so silky smooth through there. Just too much. And from the very start of that lap, that was a car where it looked like the front was following orders, yes sir, and the rear was, you didn't have enough gym badges to control that.
He will finish this lap, I imagine. Just in case.
If anyone else spins it worse, you start 14th.
Not the way he would have wanted to come to the line, though. So, goes to show you how easily it can go wrong in a shootout. In the end, the time that car registers is a 2:26. And the next car out there, it's Andrew Dyson in the 2:33 for simrigs.com. And Dyson sharing the car tomorrow with James Glasspool, Scott Szlowski and Richard Hunter for driver combination. As Dyson tries to put some temperature into those brakes.
It's a way to heat the fronts, typically. So maybe that's a Ferrari thing. No trouble with the rear tire temperature, but you need the fronts early on so that it doesn't wash out. We'll see if that's the right strategy for this 488 GT3 Evo.
Stopping on the brake pedal as well. That'll also help with tyre temperature as the temp from the brakes radiates out to the tyres as he begins his lap. Let's see how well that preparation has paid off. Really pointy on entry.
When the track temperature's cold, the fast times are one movement of the hands. But when the track temp is still up, it's 39 Celsius at the moment. Everyone across all the manufacturers is still chasing the balance of the cars a little bit, but it seems like this one and the last Ferrari we saw, maybe more so than some others.
Smooth through Griffin's Bend. A bit of oversteer on the entry to the cutting, that's hurt him. Couldn't get on the throttle as quickly as he would have liked, so it'll hurt him up the mountain as well. Not a great corner to get wrong.
But notice he was in second gear through the cutting there, and it's sort of the downshift from third to second that kind of got him in trouble. Some of the other Ferraris have been holding third through there.
That's exactly why.
A lot of signatures along Brock's skyline there, and he just added one more.
Really pushed it. got the line quite right through the S's. Still fighting the car at Forest Elbow. Are the sectors lining up with what we're seeing? It's a bit off.
None of the sectors so far all-time best, so I don't think this is going to go to the top of the board. But we know it's not going to be 15th as long as the car makes it to the line in one piece.
No glow from the brakes on that occasion. This will be our 7th time of the session, halfway through. Probably one of the better lines we've seen from Murray's corner. And he goes to the top. He found quite a bit in that final sector. And Andrew Dyson goes to provisional pole for simrigs.com DPR. Car 233.
Oh, there you go. It was just all in order, the first 5 sectors, and then tidy at the end. That's good enough for a good lap.
We're really starting to get into true title, true pole sitting contenders now. Riley Preston at the wheel of the Evolution Racing Team BMW. Really pushing a limit of fuel, I think, in that car as he pushed the clutch in through the chase. And again, on the approach to Murray's, really making sure that car has no weight more than it needs to have in the back with the fuel tank as he begins his lap.
Oh, so wide of the first apex there. Not a great start to this one. You can still salvage a lap from here, but that was about a half a car width away from being anything I'd consider an apex, and it slid too. It scrubbed the tyres and would have put in maybe more heat than you're hoping to have at the start of a flyer.
It's going to be a struggle for Preston from here to wrestle this lap back, making that error at turn 1, missing the apex. He might have been able to save it by getting on the throttle nice and early, and being in the car that's been quite quick in the straight. Maybe there's still some hope for him, as he has to fight the car up against the wall on the right hand side. No one's pushed it too far to the right across McPhillamy just yet. To the troublesome dipper. That was pretty good from him there. No sign of understeer that we've seen from the others.
Missed 4/10 in sector 1, but just went purple down the hill there. So it is coming back to him as he lets the tail wag and say hello to the wall on the exit. All 4 wheels still pointing straight, critically though. Fastest we've seen in the speed trap for GT3 is 281 k's an hour, already up to 260 as it goes across the crest. Downhill, get it into 6th gear and rev it out. 278, 280, just 280.
Only 280. Into the chase with a big hotel staring you in the face.
We can do what other broadcasters do and just lie and say it's 300 kilometers an hour every time.
Yes. Across the line. Is it deceptively fast? No. It is not. It is 5th at the moment with a 2:02.642.
3/10 away from being the fastest time we'd seen, and all of that time was lap 1, turn 1. Missed out 4/10 through sector 1, and if it just matched or even been half a tenth slower than the best time by DPR, it would have been the fastest time we've seen all session. But that 4/10 just all came in turn 1 when it just went in a bit too deep, tried to turn in with a little bit too much speed, and the front washed out from it.
If you're a fan of Synergy Sim Racing, tune in now, because up now, it's Luke Rosella in the 89, and up next, it's Jack Boyd in the 88. So, what can the Synergy lads do? The combination in car 89 Tom Freer and Wayne Burke joining Luca Rosella. It's a pretty strong lineup, in fact. They put themselves 7th on the grid provisionally in qualifying. And we've probably not seen the perfect lap yet from many of our drivers. Can Rosella produce it? As he just backs the car up, lets things cool down a fraction as he prepares himself for 6.2 kilometers with nothing left on the table. Here we go.
Tell this BMW fair into turn number 1. This is where the last car got too ambitious, but that's a good apex. Just a little on the late side is what you want to do because of the way the track rises up right there at the apex. It helps the car go a little too wide, and therefore if the track was flat, you take a slightly earlier apex than you tend to do. So this is a good start for the 89, and 22.6 in the first sector matches your current fastest time.
Hisses the wall through the cutting. Wouldn't have slowed him down at all, but just using all of the track. And this is why we love running the shootout without the incident factor. Because you can kiss that fence, get right up against it, and not worry about it. You can really, truly let it all hang out. It's a very committed lap from Luke Rosella here. Nicely through the dipper. Now crucial at Forest Elbow. He slid a little wide on the right-hander there. But he gets it stopped, turned, and accelerated, pointed out onto Conrod Straight.
This could be another one of those deceptively fast laps because he's not been purple in any of the sectors yet, but he's pretty much matched it in Sector 1, matched it in Sector 4. It's been consistent through everywhere across this lap so far. Finish it out, and it could be our best.
It was all in the final sector for the Simrigs.com team, number 233. Can Rosella produce? Out of Murray's corner. And across the stripe, 202, 285, goes to the top. Provisional pole for Car 89, Synergy Sim Racing. Smith & Sons on the car. That's a really good lap from Rosella. Just smooth and calm.
Yep, no purple sectors across the 6 micro sectors, but it goes to the top because that was a 6.2 kilometer car and 6.2 kilometer drive. It was 99.9% commitment everywhere and didn't overstep the mark and did exactly what was needed when you're sort of in the middle of a top 15 shootout is, well, let's see if we can bump that up just a couple and know that other people will be tempted to go in too hard and someone might make a mistake. It's not going to be us.
So, Synergy Sim Racing looking to go 1-2 here with Jack Boyd at the wheel. Brenton Hobson and Adam Briggs will be cheering him on as he sets himself and tries to replicate what Rogella's just done. Pretty much identical through turn 1 to what Rosella did as well. You imagine the setups on these two BMW Synergy Sim Racing cars will be identical. Maybe some little comfort tweaks here and there between the two combinations of drivers.
I think the biggest difference would be just driver to driver exactly how much you move the brake bias around on the lap, because if you're looking for every last tenth, then that's something you're going to absolutely need to be doing on these qualifying laps. It's something you do in a race situation typically as well. A 10th off in first sector for Jack Boyd, but I don't think that is a big problem because he's still winding up on this one, and that's still, right on pace to match all the most competitive times we've seen so far.
Didn't use the brake in a McPhillamy, just lifted the throttle. Really late onto the brakes down Skyline, through the S's, past the tipper, just got away with that fence on the right. He probably caught a bit more understeer than he wanted to. Gets it neater through Forest Elbow than Rosella did. Remember, Rosella drifted a little wide on the entry.
Made up that Sector 1 time in Sector 4 through the dipper, so still right on pace with what their teammates currently at the top of the board did. Car gripped up super well, landing after the dipper. Now it's just one last braking zone to go. Still on for the fastest lap of the session so far if Jack Boyd brings it home well.
How's it look for Jack Boyd? For Synergy Sim Racing, 202.248 by 400s. He eclipses Luke Rosella. Synergy Sim Racing 1 and 2 for cars 88 and 89, with 5 drivers to come in the top 15 shootout.
Worst they can possibly start now is 3rd or 4th row. I think they'll be pretty happy with that. Track temperature just stable all through this session at the moment as well. I was looking to see, is it coming towards them a lot? And it's just ticked down while I was mid-sentence. So it's on a 37.8. So it's cooled off just a tiny bit. But I still think it's that consistency and a car that did what it was told everywhere around the mountain that's put those Synergy cars to the top at the moment.
So, Cooper Murray. This could be a big lap for the Falcon Racing team. Cooper Murray's been handed responsibility of qualifying a stacked entry, driving with Phil Sell and Brody Kostecki. P5 provisionally after qualifying. Can he move this team up to position 1? Turn 1, check that off the box. He's through there smoothly. He's got success in Mount Panorama in his past. He won the Bathurst 6 hour. Did Cooper Murray back in 2019. That was in the Class D Toyota 86. He won the final race of the Carrera Cup season here in Mount Panorama. Later last year. Oh God, we're in 2022, aren't we? Can he add a pole position in the virtual world at Mount Panorama to his list of accomplishments? How are the early sectors stacking up?
Exactly matched the fastest that we've seen. Went faster than Synergy. Same again in Sector 2. A lot of curb there at the top of the hill as well. Now towards the dipper, a trouble spot for many, but not for this car. Didn't even look like it got flighty or light across the hill and through the dip at all. Went exactly where they asked.
This looks like a really solid lap from Cooper Murray so far, the Porsche ace. Translating his skills into the sim and into the BMW.
So the composure was rewarded with a purple sector in 4. This has got to be the best cumulative we've seen so far. Good speed down the straight. Is it going to tick 280? Only 279 for Cooper Murray, but it's good and it's going where you want through the chase when some other cars start to fade. BMW's maybe starting to get understeery by that point. One last corner and this could go to the top.
He's chasing the 202.248. He did a 201.982 in qualifying earlier on. Cooper Murray, 201.898. He's gone quicker than he did in qualifying. That is a really, really good lap for Falcon Racing number 69. That is a big benchmark now for the next 4 drivers to chase. He's gone quicker than qualifying, and that is always a sign of a really good lap.
Nailed the exit from Forest Elbow too, because despite not setting the speed track record, it was still the fastest time total down Conrod Straight as well. So it was equal with Synergy Sim Racing, Sector 1, Sector 2, and then from about Metal Great onwards, showed everyone what is possible on this improving track and took that bar from in the 202s to solidly into the 201s.
Andrew Carl now the big task for Logitech G Altus Esports. car 43, driving with James Scott and Cody Death. Cody Death? Someone correct me. We've seen quite a few BMWs over the last few laps. Now it's time for a Ferrari.
What does he do at the cutting? I'm dying to see if this is third or second gear for Carl. It might depend on how he feels about the downshifts, how much speed he's carrying in. But it has looked good so far, and he is purple to sector 1. So turn 1 and up Conrod straight was good. Really hooks the crown of the road through Griffin's Bend as well, despite needing to catch the slide a little bit on the exit. It looked super committed. Up towards the cutting, straight lining it. He goes to second, but then tucks the car in nicely there. I like it all so far from the Ferrari and from Andrew Carl. We're about to get another sector time. It's purple sector 2, so it is best of the session so far on this lap.
Andrew Carl is bringing the fight for Altus Esports. He needs to pretty much match what he did in qualifying to go to the top. He's gone purple again. He's linking all the sectors up. He's using the slide of that car to dance it around the corners. This Ferrari doing exactly what it's commanded by Andrew Carl. Out of Forest Over, right up against the wall.
Would you believe 4 purples? It is lighting up. The track cooling down a little bit. He's got a good, well-timed cloud, but he's placed the car just perfectly too. You know they will have hammered out a good qualifying setup. Now, just the chase and Murray's to go.
2:01.3 is the best we've seen all evening in qualifying. It was Vendaval Sim Racing White, the 36 by Josh Anderson. The sectors are all purple for Andrew Carl. Can he get near that 2:01.3? Provisional pole right now is at 2:01.8. Out of Murray's corner for Altus Esports. 2:01.483. That's a mega lap from Andrew Carl.
Purple all sectors bar the last one. He took, we saw Synergy Sim Racing go to the top of this session without any purple sectors, just being close enough in every sector, putting a good lap together without any mistakes anywhere, just the consistency in all 6 sectors. But then that's not enough to stay at the top of this session, because you've seen Andrew Carl just everywhere, every single corner, every single lift, turn in, braking zone, tear this mountain apart. Now there's only a couple drivers left to do the same thing and try to dislodge him from the top of the board.
Are we going to see a 2-minute lap time?
I want to see a 0-0.
Back
Dying
in practice,
for a 0-0.
In practice before qualifying, we went a 2:07 from Josh Anderson, 2:07 from R1 Simsport, 2:09 from Falcon Racing. The only 3 cars to dip into the 2s. As the track heated up for qualifying, we didn't see it. But the track looks to be coming to the drivers now. It's 36-degree track temp. The drivers are hooked up. They're giving it everything. We're seeing some stunning laps. What has Alexander Bird got for us for Vendaval Sim Racing? The first of 2 cars in this top 15 shootout for Vendaval. Really good through turn 1.
And you'll stop me if I'm wrong, but I think the first Porsche we've seen in the shootout too, so how's that going to go in these different conditions?
Porsches are quick. They were 1 and 3 in qualifying. All the track, are they just as quick? They should be based off practice. All on the track out of turn 2, hopping over that curb, getting up against the concrete. It can really be a tricky curve if you hit it the wrong way, but everyone's nailed it for the most part in this shootout. Oh, that curve is vicious from on board as you come out of the cutting.
Where the Porsche's looking really strong to me compared to the Ferraris and even some of the BMWs we've seen is when you're asking for a lot of throttle and you've got a bunch of steering lock on. So out of Griffin's Bend, out of the cutting, it looked so good. Like you could just launch out of those slower corners, really use the power in the revs. It's a bit wide on the way into the dipper. It's a bit wide on the exit of the dipper too. There's purple sector 2, purple sector 3, but a little off through 4. He's right through 5 now, down Conrod straight.
Alexander Bird and Josh Anderson, they'll be desperately trying to pull together a Vendaval Sim Racing front row. Andrew Kyle's done his best to put Logitech G Altus Esports on pole. And don't forget, R1 Sim Sports up next as well. Through the chase, he maybe got it a little bit wide. He grabbed the grass on the right-hand side. Has that hurt him? He's put in a couple of purple sectors so far. Is this good enough for a provisional pole for Alexander Bird? 2020, it's not. He goes P3, that's where he qualified. But he might slip some more. He'll probably be disappointed with that lap. Falcon Racing and Altus both improved on their qualifying time. He was 2.5 tenths off it. And then there were 2.
All fell apart in Sector 5, which is from into the elbow and down to sort of underneath the bridge on Conrod Straight. So I don't think we saw anything massively out of line there, but just might not have had the guts on the brakes into the elbow, and then the turn, that tight line that you see a lot of the Ferraris take in there, and open up the power and the straight line speed as well. So it was all there the first half of the lap, and you were thinking, okay, this could match it or be a 2:01.67, and then a 2:02 flat leaves me feeling a little bit flat, even though that is a mega time.
Reece Gasol and John Pesnick swapped drivers 5 times in qualifying, searching for the right man for the job for this very moment, the one-lap shootout. It is Reece Gasol with the job in the R1 Sim Sports 555 Ferrari. Both of them driving with Cameron Stubber and Melise Paulo Gallen in tomorrow's 12-hour. And Gasol sticking all the way against the white line on the right. Now brings it back to the left, ready for the braking zone for Griffin's Bend. Had a couple goes at the brakes there, had to get back on the brakes about halfway through the corner, just to help get the car rotated. Very shallow into the cutting there as well.
I think that's something these Ferraris are doing, trying to manage what's otherwise a bit of a loose rear end, and he caught a tiny bit of the curb in Griffin's earlier on in the lap there as well, and that's kind of what might have hurt him a tiny bit through there.
Scraping against the concrete at Reed Park. Using all of the curb at McPhillamy Park. Scraping the concrete to get on the exit to Skyline.
He's just a tenth missing to Andrew Cole through each sector, so it's about 3 tenths behind here. None of them are wrong, they're just not as bullseye, not as on it as Andrew Cole was able to be in the other Ferrari we've seen in this session.
Kicked the rear end out as he got the power down as quickly as he could there. Track temps come down again, there's more cloud cover on the racetrack. Could that help Gasol and R1 Sim Sports? There's a 4/10 gap from first to second at the moment for them to slot themselves into, but they won't care about that. Gasol wants pole. Again, a couple dabs at the brakes. A slide out of the chase. Keeps it on the curb. Is it a fast and loose lap from Reece Gasol here? Through Murray's corner. To the line. 2:01.890. P2. He slots into that gap. R1 Sim Sports will start no lower than third. There's one car left. And Andrew Cole has vaulted this Altus Esports car from P4 onto the front row. Is it pole position? Was Josh Anderson, who has been the pace setter in qualifying all the way through, got something to say about that?
Just winding back to R1, it started off mild, and then the last 3 sectors of the lap became spicy. He clawed himself just back into that second spot when you could have seen him on the wrong side of the 2:02. We've seen the other Vendeval Porsche earlier, and, it looked pretty good early on in the lap, and then got milder later on. If you can get 6 good sectors, Josh Anderson, Vendeval can do it.
Juan Lopez and Dylan Burst watch on. They know they've chosen the right man for the job to qualify their car. He's going to have to match his quali time if he wants to get pole. Only 2 drivers have furthered their quali time. One of them sits on pole position. Vendeval Sim Racing versus Altus Esports. 2 titans of the game. Anderson and Carl. Two drivers who you would pick any day of the week to get pole position, but only one of them can get it tonight. So smooth for Griffin's Bend from Anderson.
Yeah, that was sweet. It got the crown just right, and then you want to tuck the nose in at the cutting as well, and then walk it all the way out. That's where the Porsches are seeming to be stronger than the Ferraris. It's just, they can take a wide entry, carry some speed through, and really pick up the throttle early. It's looking pretty juicy so far. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2, a cigarette paper, nothing to the wall there, plenty of curb, and he's giving it the go. He's not going to say, oh yeah, no, top 10 will be fine. This is an attempt at a pole lap. You can see that conviction.
Faithfully past the dipper, trouble spot of the shootout. One major exit out of Forest Elbow.
That's where his teammate was weak.
Watching the top speed go up and up towards 280 kilometers an hour. By the time he stomps on that brake pedal at the chase. Andrew Carl's got 4/10 on them all at the moment in the shootout. Josh Anderson is here to spoil the party. Can he do it? Uses the curb on either side of the chase. All of the curb on the exit. One corner to go. Can Anderson keep his pole position? Or has Carl stolen it from him? Out of Murray's corner. Vendaval Sim Racing and Joshua Anderson go to pole position by 0.04 of a second. Anderson holds on. It's front row for Altis, and Josh Anderson has done the job.
Quality lap. Purple Sector 1, 2, 3, 4. Like the other Vendaval Porsche though, dropped a couple of tenths in Sector 5. Down Conrod straight. Keep a note of that in the race, because a qualifying car is one thing, a race car is another, but this was a qualifying performance and a qualifying drive. You put some of that down to a really good car, but to be then, nearly half a second ahead of their teammates in the other Porsche, that was a lap where from the very start he said, I'm going to take pole position with this lap, and you saw that commitment every which way around. It was either going to be pole or it was going to be in the fence, and you trust Josh Anderson, it's pole.
So, Vendaval in pole position for the race tomorrow in their Porsche, ahead of two Ferraris, and cannot discredit the effort from Andrew Carl. He found 3/10 on his qualifying time. To do that in a shootout is phenomenal. Just missed out by 0.04 in the end. R1 Sim Sports start this race from P3, dropping one spot in the shootout. Falcon Racing number 69 move up one spot to start P4. The second Vendaval Sim Racing car, one of the bigger losers, moving back 3 spots ahead of both Synergy Sim Racing machines. The 88 ahead of the 89. Simrinks.com DPR 233 in 8th, ahead of RSR Esport and Pursuit Sim Racing car 5, rounding out your top 10 on the grid for tomorrow's Logitech G Bathurst 12-hour. The final 5 cars in the shootout: 951, the ERT 26, 5-Star Motorsport, XCM, and Lessie Esports, who found the fence. We'll go through the rest of the grid as well here, David, looking from 16th on back in Power Summit, Pulse Chuka Toyota, Transtaz Racing 184, HBC Racing, Synergy Sim Racing 27. In fact, we'll just let them roll through on your screen, because there's 50 of them, David. But what we do have is our pole sitter, the man of the hour, Josh Anderson, in here with us on SimSpeed TV. He looked like the man to beat all evening long, Josh. Right at the end, he only just got there, but it was a mega lap.
Yeah, it was actually the last corner. I hit the curb, which everyone knows that curb is death at Bathurst, and I lost a not insignificant amount of time. So as I came over the line, I was shitting bricks, pardon the French. But yeah, no, it was like I was pretty nervous beforehand. So I definitely in the past I think I crack under pressure. So I was feeling it, but I'm pretty happy that I didn't this time. Or didn't completely this time, I should say.
In terms of the driver lineup you have for tomorrow, obviously you were the man for the job here in qualifying, doing all of the laps there. But you've got Juan Lopez and Dylan Burst alongside you tomorrow for the car 36. How do you see your chances teaming up with them, and sort of how do you rate them as drivers?
Yeah, well, actually, I got to thank Juan for stepping in so late. We were going to drive with Griffin, but he had a family drama and had to withdraw quite late. So for a while there, I was sort of trying to work out what the best plan was, if we were going to combine the two cars or whatever. But luckily, Juan stepped in, which is, I'm very grateful for that. So, and he's obviously done a lot in sim racing. So I'm looking forward to driving with him. I haven't driven with him since 2019 Bathurst 12 hour, ironically. So that should be good. And then Dylan's a young kid who's really quick. So, we picked him up from obscurity a little bit. So he's been really good to see him develop, and I'm looking forward to driving with him tomorrow.
Vendaval, both cars going with the Porsche. We're not seeing many Porsches out there at all, and you're the only two in the top 10. What was the reason for that choice?
I was actually kind of surprised that no one else went for the Porsche. I tried a bunch of cars on Monday or Tuesday or whenever it was, and the Porsche felt pretty good. I enjoy the Porsche Cup car, and I hadn't really driven before the Apex Hunters United series. Hadn't really driven this car, so I thought I might give it a go, and I've been enjoying it. I think it's good. It's probably not the typical car you would choose at Bathurst. I definitely won't be choosing it for the official race, but I think it suits the current BOP situation, and it seemed to me like a pretty obvious choice. It is hard to drive. Even in that quali lap, then I had to be quite conservative down the hill because it will kill you. I have died a lot of times in testing. It's just that kind of car. But I think it's the race setup that we've worked on is stable enough and consistent enough that we can race with it and not be too scared. So I think we should have a good chance. But obviously it's a 12-hour race. So much can go on. So you just go racing and see what happens at the end.
David, I believe you've got some questions for him.
Yeah, successful with the pole, congratulations. Just noticing across all the sectors compared to particularly the Ferraris that you're going to be racing pretty heavily, I think, tomorrow. You had them beat everywhere except these Vendaval Porsches in sector number 5 from through the elbow, then down Conrod Straight. Both of you guys missing some time to them there. Is that going to be a concern in the race?
Yeah, I think the Porsche seems to struggle a lot, maybe due to the weight distribution. On that downhill run into Forest Elbow, so you got to pull it back to first gear and then short shift to second at the apex, but because you just get a massive understeer otherwise. And I've played around with the diff and stuff, trying to fix that, but I couldn't fix it. So I think that hurts to run out of Forest Elbow. The car seems okay in a straight line. I was running minimum wing then, so it's pretty much all she had, all she had in a straight line. But I think the car is probably the best, in that sector 2, sector 3 area. It seems to have really nice rotation. So it's quite fun. It's certainly it's hard to drive, but it's rewarding when you when you get it right, I suppose.
12-hour tomorrow is of course going to have some pretty big swings to the track temperature and that. And you got to think, from great qualifying performance here into the race, how's the Porsche then going to go across potentially changeable conditions compared to your rivals?
Yeah, of course I don't want to give too much away, but I've identified that the Porsche is probably better in hot conditions than cold conditions. So I wouldn't be surprised if you slip back in the morning, and then hopefully we'll just circulate, and then it's like every enduro, it's a cliche, but you just buy your ticket to the last hour. So the last 2 hours really. I do think the Porsche is quite good in the hot conditions. Hopefully, I know this is about when the race will end on tomorrow, so hopefully we're not too slow at the end. But we'll just have to drive it as fast as we can and see what happens.
Ryan?
Thank you very much. Josh,
No
congratulations once again. Go get ready for the 12 hours tomorrow. Get your beauty sleep in.
Yeah, I'll be heading up to bed shortly. Thank you.
So there's your pole setup. Josh Anderson ready for the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour tomorrow. Coverage kicking off from 7:30, 8:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and the green flag at 9 a.m. Race ending at 9 p.m. obviously. We're bringing you the first 3 hours here on Some Speed TV and the final 3 hours, so you catch all the major moments of this event. Going to be a cracker. David, final thoughts before we wrap?
Well, it was an amazing GT3 shootout session that we just had, and it had a little bit of everything. It had spills, thrills, some really as committed as you'll ever see laps around the mountain, including one of those Ferraris just stepping over that limit that you tow around in a shootout. Congratulations to Vendeval, who are going to start front row for tomorrow's race. Don't forget about those GT4s as well. Falcon Racing 50 with the McLaren is going to be front row for that class. I mean, of course the focus is on the fastest cars, on the overall class, but I think you got to show some respect to GT4 as well, because there is some talent in that, albeit smaller field. And they will play either their own race or a role in the overall race tomorrow. Whatever it is, you're not going to forget about the GT4s either.
Certainly not. Catch it all here on Some Speed TV for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Being a brilliant qualifying and shootout to cover, and the big dance tomorrow going to be a lot of fun. From myself, Ryan Jones, Stephen Haynes alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.